Hello and welcome to another Captain's Table. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. And this is the Captain's Tables, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen news, theory crafting, lore, what have you. We do that here. Today we've got our topic is going to be about engineering and specifically fire, because that was shown off a couple weeks ago, and engineering in general. We'll get more into depth of the topics, but first we'll introduce the cast, starting with you, Axis0096. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Greetings, I am Axis0096. I am just, your typical bottom of the bucket streamer, but I do a lot of cargo hauling. Well, I'm starting to get into it because of the new update, but I do salvage and exploring. That's my predominant traits. I do a bit of bunker hunting too, but I'm on. Do you want me to go with what I do next?
What are you doing next? Yeah, go for it. Where can they find you and stuff like that? Yeah.
Where you can find me is on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and Rumble now.
Rumble now too.
That's my newest platform. So I'm on 4 different places.
Awesome. And then next we've got fresh from the bottom of the Marianas Trench. I'm sorry, operational security.
Man, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He's actually from the orbit of Pluto. All right, so he's.
I told you that in confidence. What the hell? You were in the circle of trust until just now.
Mr. Nightcob, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Oh, I haven't done much in Star Citizen recently. Obviously, thanks to Paul breaking the rule of silence on that.
Yes.
That's okay. Normally, I hang out and I stalk other Star Citizen content creators like you two. But occasionally I do podcasts with Atirakel and Tree0311. Hopefully we'll start that back up again now that I'm back. Mm-hmm. Talking about things like this. We've actually done our own show on fire engineering and strategies and how they relate to our experiences in the military and everything like that. So
nice.
Currently just getting back into Star Citizen and a host of other games that I had to put on hold for about 5 months. So, really looking forward to 324 and 40 here in the very near future. And then I'll probably start streaming it or something like that soon.
Nice.
I'm back for a little while longer.
That's nice. Yeah, good time to come back. Right around when all of the games are releasing. So
is it though, Paul? I feel like I could have waited like another month or two.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it's pretty famous for those of you who don't know. Pretty much in the U.S. Navy, and I think to the Marine Corps is to the same aspect. Every sailor is a fireman. So like every person in a Navy vessel knows how to deal with fire, is trained to deal with fire, and especially with you being a submariner, it's even worse. Probably the fire is even more dangerous there. So
number one fear.
So you have a lot of maybe not experience, hopefully, but you have a lot more professional experience in terms of like how fire functions, what thing burns and stuff like that. So what was your initial impression from CIG's presentation on fire at IS for the ISC?
One, I like it overall. The big thing that impressed me probably was how quickly it propagates in an enclosed space like that, which is fairly accurate. I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's, certain things shouldn't be burning in the ship and stuff. But I think what they're really just trying to convey is the reality that it really only does take, in an enclosed compartment, it takes 2 minutes before, if you have not already commenced firefighting efforts, the space is going to be quickly overwhelmed. So we actually preach it a lot on board, the submarine and other ships, that it's like if you're not successful in the first 2 to 3 minutes of fighting the fire, odds are really good you've at least lost the space. Mm-hmm. Worst case scenario, though, is if you're not successful in the first 5 minutes, you're probably losing the ship. Which in certain ships, obviously, when you're hundreds of feet down, like that's untenable. And that, you know, similarly in space, like you can't afford to lose the ship when the environment outside is inherently hostile
Mhm.
to human life. So I like the danger aspect of that, and I like the idea that it should and quickly become one of those things that you can just look at and immediately know that you should be in fear. Like if I don't fix this, we're all dead.
Yeah.
And that's a truism that I think they did a good job representing. I know that there are some details and people are like, well, that's not how it'll function in zero G. And you know, that's just obviously metal and
Mhm.
it shouldn't burn as easily as the rest of the things. And there's some truth to that too that I don't I'll be honest with you, I just don't care. Because it's good gameplay
Yeah.
and it looks fun and it looks terrifying and it
Yeah.
looks like it spreads real quick and it looks like you should have to deal with it.
Yeah. Axis, same question for you. Initial impression on Fire.
Uh, well, Nightcup's absolutely right. In an enclosed space, you're going to have a finite amount of oxygen as well. And if you're trying to fight the fire, especially if you're in a submarine, like his profession dictates, not only are you below waterline, you also have a finite amount of oxygen, not only for you, but the fire is consuming. So it's a time clock.
Mhm.
You're racing against time to either put it out or it takes you out. So not only can you succumb to the oxygen deprivation, but you can, and the burns, obviously, but which won't be in this version
No.
initially. But at some point, they did hint we will have thermobaric damage in the form of first, probably second, and third degree burns. Which who who in chat's ever had those kind of burns? They suck.
Mhm. If you had a really bad sunburn, I'm sure somebody has. I'm very pale, so I've had very bad sunburns, and so I kind of know the idea of how that can stink a lot. So
So I'm
uh,
sorry to get off on this tangent, but Nightcop brings up a good point. But yeah, the zero G aspect may be a little need to be tuned a bit because there is no explosive decompression in space. When you open the door, it just vents and it
mm,
kills the fire, but it also vents your air source into the void of space. So you better hope you have a suit to contain your own oxygen in.
no, someone saying third degree burn is nothing like nothing is sunburn. I said a really nasty second degree burn is really bad. Is what I was saying. Uh, third degree burn, you can't feel anything, and you have to stay in a hospital for a very long time, or they give you skin transplants. So yeah, it's a little more different. What I was saying is, if you've had a really sunburn, you kind of have an idea of how that is.
Gonna have a point. Aluminum burns very easily, while also heat warps superstructure.
That's true.
So if a fire gets thermally hot enough, it can melt and corrode, I guess would be the correct term. It would corrode the integrity of your hull of your ship
Mhm.
or other things. And they showed it very well. They showed it burning into the panels and you can imagine the insulation just was going up like that.
Mhm.
Once it gets hot enough, it'll just spontaneously combust.
It depends on stuff. Yeah, I was gonna say like that's one thing. Like as somebody who studies a lot of history, I like a lot of space history, and like Apollo 1 is a tragedy for a reason. And for those of you who don't know a little bit of space history, the first ship of the first attempt at Apollo 1, had veteran space astronauts, people who've gone to space before. And it was very different from what Apollo would become, but they were rushing to try to complete it. And I believe it was like 100% oxygen environment or close to 100% oxygen environment inside that capsule. And they were just doing a quick sort of like run through. They were doing a test and they were having some technical issues. And a errant electrical spark caused a fire inside the capsule and killed all of them. They were getting the hatch off very quickly, and by the time they got there to get the hatch off, it was too late. We're talking like minutes, and this was a spaceship. This is like a metal spaceship. This is the things that were burning were wires and the Velcro and the other like little parts of that stuff. Um, um,
With you.
Yeah.
I don't know if if you purposely dropped out or if it was just the sobering realization of what happened to those people or not.
Sort of.
Sorry.
It's okay, Paul. We're gonna let you go on taking the mood down a little bit.
Yeah,
it's all right, everybody. We're gonna climb back into jokes and good times in just a second here. All right.
My point was that is an example of like something that's like in real life of how that sort of things can happen. And they've had fires on like the Mir space station in the past. So like it is a real issue in modern day space travel, and it's a real concern. And I think the way that CIG showed it, of like, because I know there's people like, oh well, it's not realistic. It's like, well, they even said in the ISE, it's like it represents the things in between the bulkheads, the insulation, the wiring, those things burning and then catching fire and that kind of stuff. And that sort of kind of represents that sort of thing. And one of the things that struck me when I saw that was that CIG said at the very beginning that they want to make space dangerous. They want to make space dangerous. And this fire seems very, very much along those lines of they wanted to make space dangerous. And this feels like that step of like, yeah, you can, you have to repair your ship to make sure things are functioning, but you're also going to have to figure out, firefighting techniques and so those sorts of things. It's gonna start kind of building up all of those things. So I really enjoyed the presentation. It seemed fine. Dangerously elite. Access. I'm going to ask you this question. I realize you're kind of things a little off kilter. There we go. All right. Was there anything you disliked about the presentation? Is there anything you were concerned about with Fire, based off what they've said so far?
Kind of what you and I were discussing privately earlier, the RAM cost, because it looks really hungry. As we all know, this game is really, really, I guess more CPU driven right now at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when it switches to GPU, I wonder what the trade-off will be whenever this tech hits. That's what I'm concerned about. I mean, are we going to need like 100 gigs of RAM or something? I mean, I do, but no jokes aside, I am worried about just the sheer amount of power we're going to need. Will we need next-gen hardware just to run it?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. That cop. Any concerns or other issues when you saw the looking at the video?
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a valid concern for the performance cost. Hopefully the server meshing and all that kind of stuff alleviates part of that cost. But I don't know. My only concern, it's not a concern. I feel like everybody's going to figure this out. I feel like everybody's going to figure this out before too long, and that we're just all going to live in the expanse world. And I know I'm kind of stealing this potentially from a question, but like, why in the world would we even, once we're anywhere near a situation where a fire could start, like combat or whatever, why in the world would you be in anything but a spacesuit? We live in that already practically in the Star Citizen universe anyway, unless we're feeling like RPing, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, I just live in a spacesuit, and I would not just, turn off life support, vacuum in the ship, no atmosphere, no oxygen. Now I don't have to worry about fire. It's literally off the table. I took out one of the crucial elements of a fire. It's gone.
That's a good point. So, like fire, this sort of thing does seem to be pushing that direction of like, why do I ever want to be out of my spacesuit if everything's dangerous? So
yeah, and now there's definitely no reason.
Yeah.
once everybody figures that game out, where it's actually hazardous to be, in your ship with the possibility of a fire, not wearing a helmet, not wearing a suit already. Whereas, so for me, right, like on the sub, it would be untenable to just live 24/7 in full firefighting ensemble
Yeah.
with, a Scott SCBA pack on and just existing that way while I, day to day worked and lived. But when you're just playing the game
Yeah.
and it's just an avatar on a screen, you're like, I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care if they're dying of heat exhaustion in there. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like the dudes. But real life, you would not want to sit in your full suit of space armor with a helmet on for hours at a time while you're doing stuff, running through quantum and all that kind of stuff. You're literally living out of your ship. You would not live out of your ship in that armor. So it's kind of one of those things that you're just like, I want them to also have reasons for us to get out of the armor.
Mhm.
And right now, this only just reinforces that rule. That's a concern.
Okay.
That's all I got, though.
Yeah. My only concern about it is I saw this mentioned, and I don't fully agree, but I do think it's something that CIG should keep in mind, which I'm sure they are, is like how much of this is necessary? Because like you're already going to have engineering gameplay and managing the power and like the charge and drain of various parts of the ship and maintaining the ship. Like, does adding like propagatable fire really add a gameplay element to the game that's important for the game to be what it is? I do think that CIG will probably find the balance, so it's not like the fire is going to. It's not like you hit one person fires one gun at you and suddenly your ship is on fire and it consumes the ship in 2 minutes, sort of thing. Like I don't think they'll go full realism with it or go full ridiculous with it, but they're gonna definitely have to find that balance between somebody walking on your ship and firing an energy weapon like 4 times and suddenly fire everywhere, versus somebody versus like taking an act of Congress to be able to light your ship on fire. There needs to be a good kind of balance between those options. So, all right. Let's move on to like kind of engineering in terms of relates to fire, because we kind of touched on that topic a little bit with like life support and stuff like that. They did show a little bit of the new engineering systems. And I talked a little bit about how life support and stuff will work. What from that did you pull out there that kind of interests you from that video? I'll start with you, Nightco, on this one.
Ooh. So right away, I tell you what still interests me is the batteries. I find it incredible that they've kind of switched the idea from redundancy to batteries. Because they mentioned this in a ISC a while ago, or maybe it was SCL. Maybe it might have been CitizenCon actually, where he talked about instead of you've got like all right, standard ship, maybe 2 power plants. Ideally, in my mind, what should be the rule is 1 power plant is enough to power your ship's at the very least vital loads. All your propulsion, quantum drive, flight control, maneuvering thrusters, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you might have to sacrifice weapons, shields, one of the 2. But if you have 2 power supplies, you should be able to power all your loads, combat ready at all times. And then they went with this idea like even with your 2 power supplies, you're going to have batteries that you have to assign power levels to one thing or the other. So it's never like you've got full efficiency, even with the prescribed power structure that your ship was designed with. And I was like, that's a weird way to go. Because I would have thought the redundancy was all about, hey, battle damage, because that's how most design philosophy works for a warship. It's like, okay, we give you X amount of power supply, and the idea is we build enough redundancy in that you can take some battle damage and still be in the fight. You take too much, you're in casualty mode. You're trying to get some of it back to get to full combat capability. If you lose it all, well, you're dead. So it's okay. Just understand that you're dead. But you might have a 3rd emergency power supply or a 4th, maybe 2, where it's like, okay, this you can limp until you can get one of the primaries back online. one of the redundant primaries back online, and then you're maybe not in the fight, but you're, limping away, and you can take yourself out of the fight. Because I mean, really, realistically, let's just assume big ship battles. You get into a major fight. There's multiple targets on opposing sides. Somebody disables you, you're out. And they're not going to worry about firing at you anymore because they got other people still shooting at them. You should still worry about the people shooting at you over the people that are out of the fight. And, that might be your opportunity to, at the very least, get yourself fully out of the fight and you limp home. They still won the engagement, but,
Mhm.
you at least live to fight another day kind of thing. Anyway, this whole battery thing, though, is interesting to me. Is like you've constantly got to assign what your priorities are for power. And, I'm worried about what the consequences of that are. Like, how good are the batteries? Do they make up for, the loss of a redundant power supply? Because many ships have multiples.
Mhm.
And then there are some that are designed with one.
Yeah. I
And it's like, what's that deal?
I I can definitely see that. The one thing I'll kind of add on to that is I'd like to see differentiation, because like one of the things they said was like going into quantum drive, it takes up all of the power supply, which kind of makes sense. It's like we want to try to do minimum standard for like your commercial vessel. It's just like we're just trying to get you from point A to point B and make it cheap. So we want to try to cheap as possible kind of power supply. But then you'd want a differentiation between that and say like a Perseus, which is like, hey, this was built to be a military vessel. It has backups for backups. An exploration ship should obviously have more power than it needs because it's not going to be in a place where it's going to have regular servicing and maintenance. So it needs to be long voyages and have a lot of power backups and other sort of things like that. I can see that sort of differentiation, but if everything is just, you can't use it. If you want to use full bore everything, you need to have charged batteries, and you're going to start using charged batteries. It's like, okay, why? The batteries should be there as oh, this is taken down, do this. Or you want to go silent mode, you just turn off your engine, you turn off your power sources, you use the battery to kind of stealth your way in and out. So
you mean like an old diesel boat?
Yeah. Like
that would work.
And then those
that'd be kind of cool.
Those are levers they could pull for like gameplay aspects. Like, having the batteries becomes more of a like a way that players can approach a problem, rather than being, this is how you have to solve this problem using this solution. It feels more sandboxy, more emergent, I should say. So
I'm with you.
Access. How about you? What are your thoughts initially on engineering, what they've talked about in the past, especially in the video and such?
Okay, I'm lost.
It's okay. Engineering. So like what they talked about in engineering, like power management, atmosphere management, that kind of stuff. What are your initial thoughts on what CIG's talked about?
Initially, we just had the fuses and the conduit stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then they added the batteries. So, okay. Batteries are usually just storage inputs.
Mhm.
Somebody brought up fuel in the comments, and that's a good point. But what are you fueling? Generator, or the engine itself?
I would assume the power plant. The power plant has to run on some kind of fuel. It's not just like one of those Carnot engines of just, oh, I don't need a source and I'm a perpetual machine. I would assume the power plant itself derives some amount of fuel from either. I would assume that's the hydrogen. I would assume that's what runs on hydrogen, and your quantum drive burns an entirely different style of fuel. That's what I would assume. So what I look forward to at all that, and this kind of comes back to the batteries thing, but is as long as the batteries are their own sustainable energy source, and it's like, okay, if I got the power plant online, they're charging the batteries, they keep the batteries charged.
Yeah.
So that when, like Paul mentioned, okay, a power plant goes down, now I can supplement, or if it was the only power plant, now batteries are keeping me limping along to the vital loads. Then that's fine. I like that gameplay. I'm down with that. I'm familiar with that gameplay actually in real life.
Yeah.
But the idea would be get your power plant back online so that you can start using your hydrogen fuel, which is your primary long-term energy reserves. But maybe if you're running low, that's the engineering gameplay of, hey, we're running low on hydrogen fuel. It's a matter of, we got to start shutting down some loads. So shields are going, weapons are going. You were going down to the minimum amount. I'm turning off these thrusters and I'm turning off life support systems, and I'm turning off these things to make that hydrogen fuel stretch to whatever I need it to be. Because the moment you run out of hydrogen fuel, it's not even just that I'm stranded in space. It's like all the systems go down. That was what the power plant was relying on too.
See, what I'm wondering is batteries and the power plant are going to be the most heavily used part of the core of your ship. They're going to be the most heavily torqued at outside of physical combat if you're not a combat player. So I would expect malfunctions.
Oh, of course.
Malfunctions to occur between the linkage between your ignition source, whatever that is, to your power plant or fuel tank or something. You see what I'm saying? Because on a car, you have a battery, an engine, a ignition, and then
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that they're probably your most likely repair areas. Well, sorry about the pop-ups. I don't know.
It's cool. As I say, someone's getting a Discord message.
You were just tricking me. I was like, I thought it was mine. I'm like looking over my Discord, like, no, not me. All right.
I'm thinking those would probably. I'm probably thinking they would be the most heavily worn out of all the components, because others kind of auxiliary, but that may be to your advantage too. If enemies go after your main power supply, maybe you have a secondary that gets you to limp, like you said, Cobb, out of the combat zone to get full repairs, or at least get the heck out of there if the fight's not in your favor.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to pause for a quick second. My fuzzy roommate over here has decided that now is the time that he needs to use the bathroom.
That's fine. Go for it. I'll kind of add in there. So I'll add in a little bit. I think a little differently. The way I look at this is I'm thinking of this in terms of what you were talking about with like maintenance. I think generally speaking, the way I'm seeing engineering is it's becoming more. It's a lot more of a gameplay loop. If that sounds, it's going to sound kind of weird, but
very necessary one too.
Yeah, like you're going to have to do it. It's not originally when they were pitching it, I thought it was going to be sort of something someone else could do sort of on a side, like, oh, a gunner can also be an engineer. So but it feels much more like, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do this. Like someone's going to have to check the capacitors. Someone has to check the battery banks. Someone's going to have to check the power plants, the shield generators, all of these different like systems to make sure they're working and see which one's at who's damaged, who isn't, and this is like before or during flight, and doing things like having to say, listen, I've got to do fuel calculations. We use, 10% of our hydrogen fuel to keep our power plant up and running. And, if we don't have enough to do that, we can't run the engines, which means we can't travel and all these sorts of things. It feels like CIG is really dialing in the idea of engineering as a gameplay. Like someone can play as an engineer, and that is their whole role. So
I can definitely see it, not just for ships.
Yeah,
because we know that outposts will have a similar system. And not trying to jump ahead if that was going to be a large topic, but we're going to have the same malfunctions from outside power supply on a base.
Oh, yeah.
You have like in American cities, we either have nuclear, solar, wind, whatever power plants.
Yeah.
They require consistent maintenance to continue to run, especially nuclear power plants, because gets too hot, what do you have? A meltdown, or worse. Ask Night
Cop. That's his job.
People.
Yeah.
A good incident, actually very little understood, is 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
And there are many other examples. But dialing it back in here, back to what I was saying about outposts, they all will have capacitors, fuse boxes, like in every house has a fuse box. So expect those, and you're going to have to get used to maintaining your outpost just like your ship or your vehicles.
Yeah. And like even your like sort of yeah, magic beam guns, those will all have power supplies that will drain in power, and you can power things by using them as a kind of a jump starting source. So they kind of showed that off in the last ISC, but it also seems like they're going to have a limited amount. So it feels like it definitely feels like a kind of a, how to put it, it feels more like they're trying to make it interesting, but also trying to make it required to do.
I think every org that has a setup base will have a engineer core to maintain their outpost or their settlement or whatever. They'll have handyman. They'll literally have ranks like handyman, journeyman, tradesman. I'm surprised nobody's thinking of it yet, because it's probably going to happen sooner or later.
Oh yeah, I mean it's and I'm also interested to seeing catastrophic failures. Like what happens?
Failures?
No, I mean like what happens if you don't maintain your power plant and it just explodes? Not fire, but just blows up.
Or at least becomes critically damaged.
Yeah.
And causes some damage to the ship. I think maybe, outright all dead is probably the wrong way to go. Don't get me wrong, I love that kind of consequence in the game, but at the very least, it's like, oh, you didn't do maintenance on it. Well, congratulations. Now it's dead, and in a catastrophic failure, it did significant damage to other related subsystems.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Like, hey, now not only that, but now your two of your weapon systems are damaged, one of your shield gens is offline and it needs repair. That would be a cool little moment.
Yeah.
Bloomless brings up Chernobyl. That is a very terrible nuclear disaster of poor engineering.
Yeah.
Well, there were other aspects to it.
Yeah, there
were. You brought up 3 Mile Island earlier, access, and I think that's a good example of something like because like for a lot of people don't know that 3 Mile Island was still working as a nuclear facility well after the accident. It was just one reactor.
It was only one. Yeah, it was one reactor on site. Sorry, these are case studies that
you have to study.
Like, as a nuclear engineering department, like Master Chief, like on a sub. This is like all of it.
Yeah.
Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, SL1, Fukushima is now in the curriculum too. But I'll be honest with you, that happened after I went through my initial training, so it's been a hot minute. So, but yeah, all good stuff.
But the idea being like if like that's a good example, because in like Star Citizen with engineering, you could have a situation where if you have 2 power plants, one goes down, you can still run with 1 power plant. It's just like just because these things are very dangerous and you need to make sure they're maintained, it doesn't mean that if you aren't good at what you do, you can keep things going despite all of the bad things happening, even on things like your planetary bases and stuff like that. So and I think that's the direction CIG wants to go. And I think that's really what surprised me from the very beginning, is that the entirety of the, how to put it, the entirety of the engineering gameplay is its own loop. I never had thought that it was going to be its own like secluded loop. I always thought of it as being kind of like an addition, like a gunner or a medic. Like, you can be a medic, but when you're on the ship, you're also, gunning, or, you're going to load boxes and stuff like that, something you can do kind of like as an every crewman. Like, you're just kind of just going around doing what you need to do. But yeah, the more they talk about it, the more it sounds like, no, this is your full-time job. If you're an engineer, your job on a ship, your job is to be an engineer, and you're going to always be busy because you're going to be replacing fuses, maintaining power and support. But I do definitely want to see where and more about the power management itself, because I'm a big Star Trek fan. So I'm all about rerouting power from the shields to the weapons.
Yeah.
The balance there, like you still have one power source, but you can just shift it around here and there to get better improvements. That sort of gameplay has always seemed interesting to me because it's all about like matching the right balance rather than being like, okay, I'm gonna go, this is my setup and I'm done. So
related to capacitors, we're forgetting something for larger things, because remember, ships are kind of small. Bases would be much bigger.
Mhm.
We might have to put in substations like in real towns, because when you have a blackout in a large metropolitan city, you have to reroute power. Otherwise, the wires and the infrastructure
can be damaged. Yeah.
Can be damaged or electrocute people messing with it.
Mm-hmm. That was a serious concern during the winter freeze here in Texas. Was they were bringing power back up online to return power, but they knew that if they brought it back up too quickly, they didn't know which lines were damaged or which weren't. They could damage the infrastructure itself by bringing too much power into the system, or it was something to that degree, because there was a concern about like basically ruining the infrastructure if they brought it back too fast, which was a controversial decision.
Power lines would burn on those, or some sort of transfer cables would, because they're made of conductibles. Get them too hot and they scorch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the insulation will burn, and then when the insulation burns, it exposes the conductor, and the conductor's grounded potentially. And if the conductor's grounded, it just draws more current through the conductor, which burns more insulation further down the line, or causes whatever the upstream supply of it is to essentially overheat, short, draw too much current, and that's when you start like popping things like major fuses at substations and or destroying the equipment at a substation.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying that this fire stuff is going to affect a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's not just going to be minor localized things. Well, it can be localized at first, but trip the wrong fuse and you could have an entire blackout and fires everywhere.
Yeah. I imagine that's what the fuse system is for. That's what it should be for. It should be this component drew too much current, or there's a fire in these subsystems or in the surrounding area. The fuses should be designed to pop first to protect the equipment on the other side of the fuses while that area burns, that area suffers the casualty, whatever, so that it preserves systems as a whole. Uh, Sorry, we call it selective tripping in our vernacular on the sub, where it's like, okay, if you take battle damage and or you have a casualty like a fire in a space, the fuses closest to that space, closest to the loads, should have the lowest trip points.
Mm-hmm.
The fuses closer to the source should have the higher trip points, so that a fuse closer to a load trips first, protects the source of power to that system, and ultimately just cuts that system off from the rest of the ship if you're undergoing battle damage or casualty or whatever.
So this leads to my next question, though. So I'll start with you, Access, on this one, which is, what have you not heard about engineering that you'd like to know more about in the coming kind of months as we lead to 4.0?
Kind of what I just brought up. Will there be different levels of engineering for different size, like installations? Because all we've seen is a few limited examples of engineering webs, like on the Hercules and I think the Aurora. Is that the other ship they used, or was it a different one?
The engineering loadout, it may have been Aurora. I think that was probably the the M2 or something to that degree. I don't know. Or was it the Gladius that they showed? The chat saying the Gladius. So
the reason why I'm so curious is, will there be different levels of it? Like the more power you pump into it, obviously, like in real life, will we be required to have more stuff added to it? Because it's sounding like it's going that direction. I'd just like to hear from it.
Okay. Nightcop, what would you like to hear in terms of about engineering in the future?
Ooh, I really want to understand maintenance. I
Okay.
really want to understand maintenance. So I had a thought, and I don't know because I don't want them to turn maintenance into a chore, but I want it to be something that's a boon. Like a
Mhm.
well-maintained system is and confers like a positive bonus. A well-maintained laser repeater, fires a fraction of a second faster or maintains charge better. Bottom line, or like I guess the way to say it would be, you get more, maybe like one or two extra shots per mag, off the capacitor bank or something
Mhm.
like that. A small but minor advantage that is tangible that you can see. And I love the idea. I feel like they've got a system already in place for it. I would just want them to copy it in some way. Uh, the mining gadgets
Yeah.
where you have to do the attunement process to
Mhm.
whatever the rock is, and it's just as simple as like, okay, you got to dial in frequency modulation, or whatever the other thing on it is, and that's something that you could just do from a MFD panel or an engineering panel in the ship on a regular basis, and it's a fun little mini game, and you get something tangible out of it. And I think that would just be super cool for like a maintenance thing. That's when you're in quantum, even in a single ship fighter, you could pull up, hey, let me pull up my two laser repeaters and do some quick little dialing in, trying to get to a 100% attunement, and call that maintenance. Call
Mhm.
it maintenance. And as the longer in between that you do that, the more it degrades. Maybe you lose a couple shots in the magazine. Maybe it generates heat a little faster. I don't know. You pick.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of something to kill time in quantum with that involves some light engineering gameplay maintenance.
What you're saying is you want CIG to make us all Garrus Vicarium, who's
I
always
don't know what I
Ma-
didn't catch that reference. I'm sorry.
Mass Effect. In I think it's in Mass Effect 2. He's always like maintaining his weapons. He's always like tuning his weapons. So whenever you see
Oh
him,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
always
yeah.
he's always got his gun. And he's like I'm doing maintenance, and it's always like that. It's always like the like sort of like modulating and that kind of stuff. Calibrations. Thank you, Ghost. Yeah,
Calibrations.
he's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about calibrations. Yeah, we got to calibrate our weapons so that they're more efficient, or calibrate our I think make the wave functions match. Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are in chatter being like, this is all like I don't we don't we don't want people to have a like electrical engineering degrees to be able to play the game.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no. If you guys, yeah, no.
yeah,
If you guys have ever played with the mining gadgets, that's all I'm talking about.
yeah,
That's all I'm talking about.
yeah. But I mean, talking about like the fuses and stuff like that, or how it works. It's like, yeah,
Oh,
but the thing about that is that you could simplify that. Like the idea being that the fuses themselves can pop in different manners depending on how the load is, and that the understanding that the load causing rerouting the load can cause damage to the system
yes.
is what's an important part. It's
Yeah.
simplifying the fact of like, this area is down, we need to reroute the power, but this is going to damage the system, but we need to be able to reroute the power this direction so we can function. Then we're gonna have to go maintain that damage. It's more of a, like I said, it's like, it seems like CIG is making this more of a loop, and so you need to manage those sorts of things or understand these basic, like, yes, we're taking this, we need to start triaging and figure out where we need to go, what we need to do, what's the most important, what's not, that sort of idea. Um,
Hmm.
so
I know I missed some of the conversation, but I really want that. I
yeah,
don't want to play that. Just to be clear,
yeah,
like I get enough of that at work. I don't want that in my space game for me, but I want it in the space game for other people that don't do what I do on a regular basis, because
yeah,
I want to fly the ships and shoot the pew pews.
yeah,
All right, like I don't get to do that in real life, and I would like to do that for fun in my fake space life with fake space money.
yeah,
But like I think it would be really cool to have the engineer be such a level of responsibility that they're worth their weight in gold.
yeah,
A good engineer on your ship is like one of those people who like, hey man, I'm gonna be on later to play Star Citizen, and we're taking out the hammerhead, and you're the engineer guy,
yeah,
or girl, and we need you, because if we don't take you with us, then we're screwed. And what a great game loop that would be for somebody, that likes to do the the support gameplay. I think that'd be cool. We don't necessarily need you, but it would be like if you're taking it into combat, you're like,
I need this person.
We could go without you, but it'd be really cool if you could find a way to make your schedule free tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Especially since CIG has been really leaning into the MMO sort of aspect of Star Citizen. That's very kind of, this is the role that you will play in the game that's important, and without that role, you're going to be at a disadvantage. It's not like yeah, you could run a dungeon without a healer or a tank, but you risk cascade failures happening where people can't heal the you can't self-heal fast enough, and you get into some bad problems, stuff like that. So
I really worked hard to avoid the term heel slut in that whole discussion, but then you brought up the WoW, and I was like, now I feel like we're close enough in that I can just say it. Yeah,
you're the engineer slut. Yeah,
y'all knew what we were talking about. Ooh, now new label, guys. New label, engineer slut.
Yeah. I'm not getting monetized in this video. All right.
Paul, you brought me on. I don't know. Fast Cart's not here, so it's all on me. It's all on me today.
I married a Navy brat, so I'm used to these sorts of things. So
6 to 9, guys. 6 to 9. Fast Cart, if you're listening, I hope you're doing well. Look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, Fast Cart's in the chat. So.
Oh, hey, he's in chat. Yeah, 6 to 9. Fast Cart, I'm still looking to live in that world. I think we all are.
So, in general, I think we have a good conversation here. Overall, I will kind of the last thoughts that I will have on it. Is there anything else that kind of just caught your eye, or something, like I said at the beginning, that you want to know more about when it comes to both engineering and fire, or maybe even how those two interconnect? Starting with you, Netcob.
2 seconds. Yeah, hit Axis first. I need a second or two to think about that.
Sorry.
Because we've talked about a lot of things, but is there anything that you want to know more about? Either from engineering, fire, or the combination of those two.
Well, for fire, I'm curious how it will affect other things in the environment besides just burnables, like water or lava, or environmental stuff.
We mentioned that at the very beginning, like the idea of having fire as a component for like a kiln or like a forge or like a kiln, or like some sort of tool, like using fire as a tool
to make and make stuff with, like commodities and things. Crafting, part of the crafting trade. I mean, if they can figure it out on Daymar, surely we players can. A fired kiln, you'd have to feed it, obviously, something burnable to get it to go. And we saw one in the latest Inside Star Citizen. Something that looked suspiciously like a kiln.
Yeah, or a like an oven or something like that. Yeah.
Either it was suggesting a food path or a artisan path for the player. So that's really weird. On the engineering side, I don't know if you know what a converter is, but some things may not be able to take your native power supply. Some things
I don't think they'll ever get into that, though.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get that far.
Inverters.
Yeah.
We're running into that electrical engineering stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people have enough understanding of that.
Unify it, but we'll have to see, I guess. I don't think they're going to go that detailed, though.
I could see them doing something to simplification. Like, if you want to take your power plant that's running your ship or your like homestead, and you want to charge your ship while you're doing maintenance, you might need like a component that's like called an inverter or a converter that you just you have to like stick between the two power lines to make it work properly, because this works off of this power supply and your ship works off of different types of power supply, and you have to change the voltage or whatever. It doesn't really have, you don't have to like, oh, I need the right the right version of a converter or an inverter. It's just more like it's a converter. Here you go. Here's a box.
Yeah,
take the box and plug the plug box. Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Something simple that I think could be reasonable to expect, but I don't know if they'll ever go there, would be, hey, certain power supplies. If you've got a 2 power supply ship, like you can't load a competition in with a military.
Yeah.
2 different systems, they don't share well. Bottom line is it's like military one, if you're going military, you got to go military. And if you're going competition, you got to go competition. And if you're, civilian economy, whatever it is, bottom line is the 2 are not necessarily compatible in that regard. Either that or you lose efficiency. That'd be cool. Like if you lose efficiency because the systems don't match and they don't, like if military, coolers work better with military power supplies and all that kind of stuff. And if you decide to divert from that, you may lose some efficiency. Maybe you gain something else in return, but that'd be that's like the cool stuff that
Yeah.
I would hope maybe would kind of delve into it. But.
That feels like more like once you have the baseline of the profession in game, you start building up to those sorts of things where it's not like everyday sort of thing. How about you, Nika? Any other questions you'd have or things you'd be interested in terms of engineering or fire or both?
Well, I had a couple.
Okay.
I had time to think of it because Fuzzy Roommate is being needy today.
But he's a good boy.
I'm supposed to be doing stuff. He is a good boy. Ghost Dog is a very good boy. One, they talked about it a long time ago, and I really want to know. They seem to be alluding to it, but I really want to talk about subcomponents again to components.
Yeah.
And what that does to systems. And I really want to understand better the variety of components. I know I kind of mentioned it with like military versus civilian. I'm just really hoping that it's not just a classification system of A, B, C, D, E.
Mhm.
I want there to be advantages and drawbacks to literally every brand of power supply, shield generator, cooler, whatever, so that this is. And then if you have subcomponents, how much more variety does that add in terms of a layer? And does it require more engineering? Like, I just love the idea of, for an example, I really want them to go into the discussion of, okay, you have military drive. What's the consequence of having, a military shield generator, or a power supply? My hope legitimately would be high performance, high maintenance.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you want to run military shit? Good. Go get a good engineer and get
Yeah.
somebody that's dedicated to the task. Because otherwise, like, stand by. It's going to fail on you if you don't treat it right. If you don't do regular maintenance on it, it's going to quickly lose its advantages, things like that. It's the worst possible gear you could possibly have from a maintenance standpoint. But man, does it perform when you need to, or it handles battle damage better than most
Yeah.
components. Something. You want something you don't have to do maintenance on, but it's going to last you, a long time. Pick a civilian, drive or power supply or whatever. And then, maybe you can tweak it a little bit in one direction or the other if it's, with subcomponents. But I would really love it if they talk about those again. And whether or not, I just want to know, hey, are we committed to that idea still? We're still going in that direction? Or this is something we took off the table a long time ago and we don't want to talk about it ever again? One of the two.
They mentioned subcomponents in the last ISC. It was just a brief mention of it, so it was like that seems like a really odd thing to mention without going into more detail about it.
I agree.
So, yeah,
you know how it goes though, Paul. Man, it's like sometimes it's like, hey, we haven't talked about that thing in a long time, and it's for a reason.
Yeah,
it's because that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, true.
Quantum economy. Let's just not talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah.
Tony Z? Tony Z who? I don't know that guy.
There was a great term I heard, which is, because like the joke that I've heard from many a military personnel and vet is whenever someone says, "Oh, it's military grade," they immediately said, "Get it away from me! It's going to explode and kill us all. It's built out of balsa wood and hopes and dreams. Do not come near it." But the way I think of military grade in terms of Star Citizen,
did I lose you guys?
Nope, we're still here. Can you hear us?
No, it's just Fastcart trying to demonetize the stream through chat.
What on earth just happened?
You might want to
6 to 9 minutes,
reconnect.
by the way, Fast Cart. 6 to 9 minutes. That's how long I want.
Can you hear
us?
us? Hear us there, Axis? Axis? Hold on.
No, we might have lost him.
Actually, he's still on there. I can still hear him. So
Okay, that was weird. Yeah, I can hear you.
okay, good.
Gotcha.
Or I think I can hear you. Hold on. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. We could hear you before.
Oh, that was weird.
That's weird. But the way I've heard this, was watching a video on this, a video on something else recently that was just talking about, military warships, and it described military warships as like 2-year-old children. They're stupid, and they will, if you don't take care of them all the time, they will walk off and try to get themselves killed or do some very dangerous things and light stuff on fire for no reasons. That you have to constantly pay attention to them to make sure that they're doing exactly what you need them to do, because they like to break. And if you're not doing the proper maintenance for them, it's going to happen. And I remember talking with Atira Kell about, it being, with like Abrams, and talking about how like the operational time is only a couple of hours or something like that, where it's just not really usable. And that's the way I was always thought about Star Citizen, the best way of going from military grade. It's like, yeah, you want the best of all worlds, get military grade, but be ready for that thing to break in 2 minutes. It could be the best performing thing you've ever seen for about one engagement, and then you're going to need to return and get that repaired, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to repair it, because that's what it's good at, good in brief bursts. The only question I still have is kind of twofold. Number one, how will this base side, the stuff like kind of like on the planet side, that sort of engineering, interact with engineering in ships? Because are we going to see the exact same modules? Are we going to see different modules? Is it a situation where I can go into an abandoned outpost and pull out like a cooler that might be able to fit on my ship, and then like slop it onto my ship if I need to for like replacement parts? Or are they going to go for more like very like, oh yeah, this is like a base power plant, and that's it. It can't, even though it's a size 2 plant, it can't fit in the size 2 ship. And then
swappability, interchangeability.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
How interchangeable are we going to see these things? And the other one is fire beyond ships. I know they didn't want to talk a little bit about fire beyond ships, but like how willing is CIG to go full Far Cry 2?
I don't think they are. They have their environments are too bespoke.
Yeah,
and the ones that matter.
Because like, that's where things are going to get really crazy if CIG wants to go that details.
I'm with you, because I want to know too, because it's one of those things. Like, I saw the Maelstrom demonstration at CitizenCon last year, and I was just like, you don't want to do that. That's like only applicable to ships, right? Like, you've spent too much time on every single little POI, every space station. Like, you've admitted that it's not full procedural. Like, I don't understand how you would even be okay with Maelstrom and technology related to Maelstrom, like fire, outside of things that the players own and the players repair.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it.
Well,
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because I want to know too.
Yeah.
If they are cool with that.
How far are they going to go? Not just with fire, but with engineering and maintenance and stuff like that. Are we going to have a situation where, like, if there is fire in outside the building you're in, that you're going to start to take damage because the oxygen is being sucked out of the room you're in? Like, are we dealing with, different, because they want to do different atmospheres. Are we going to start dealing with like atmospheric composition, determining if fires can happen, or even how well certain materials will
high
function?
Oxygen environments, oxygen environments.
Yeah. Or like, corrosive environments. Is that going to have an effect on how your ships are running? Like, will your atmospheric processors begin to, on your ships, that, kind of, that creates, livable atmosphere, that they can start breaking down, and you're gonna have to replace them? Like, Like that's sort of, once you start getting beyond the closed loop of spaceship outpost, when you start dealing with them, but also with the environments around them, like how detailed is CIG going? Like, are we going full send, or are they going to find a part where they're like, yeah, it's going to require a solution to the speed of light that we're not going to be able to figure out until now.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. I see that Thorsten guy on the engineering, discussions, and he seems pretty intelligent. So he seems committed to it too. So
oh no,
we'll see.
I believe CIG is crazy enough to try. I'm just wondering, like, is there somebody in the room who's going to raise their hand and be like, how much is this going to cost us, to run? What's the
it's a lot of CPU drain. The more you throw on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also in terms of like, you got to think about lighting and like smoke. That's one of the things a lot of people were kind of pointing out, was that it seemed really like there's a lot of fire. There wasn't a lot of smoke for fire.
Yeah.
And anybody who's been around a fire in a closed space, I have, fortunately or unfortunately, it's happened to me once. And luckily no one was hurt, but you're not prepared for how quickly smoke it takes over an entire place when a fire is going, because it can be
less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, it is, and you can't see anything within a couple of within a minute. It becomes just, you don't see anything. It's not fire everywhere. It's just blackness and you can't breathe. It's not fun.
Can't confirm.
So like Jen and Tonic saying that, like, they said that the smoke is there now, and I assume that they were toning down the smoke so you could see the fire because it was like pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look pretty. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but I was just like, but how much is that? Because once you get to that point, like, okay, there is smoke. When you have a wildfire, that's a lot of smoke. That's going to start affecting the light that's cascading through the smoke, which is why anybody who's been around when California lights on fire every year, you'll see the sun itself changes color because the amount of smoke that's in the air, and those sorts of things. You start to deal with, like, the planetary tech people have to start dealing with it. So like how far are they willing to push this? So.
Honestly, they could go pretty far, Paul, because if you go with your example that you just said, fire can influence the very weather around it. It can create fire whirls, fire tornadoes. It can even create a type of thunderstorm called a pyrocumulonimbus, or it's literally a thunderstorm that sucks in all the moisture from the trees and stuff in the area. It gets so hot it creates its own weather in a region. Now, and it takes very specific conditions to do that. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
CIG wants to do weather systems. Are they willing to go that insane? I don't think they are, but I do want to know which direction they're moving in, because I know CIG likes to do this. We're going to go sim and then pull it back to realism, or we're going to go realism or sim, and we're going to pull it back to fun. I should just say, pull it back to fun.
Yeah.
So
CIG, if you're listening, we're okay if you keep it on the ships.
Yes, it's okay if you
want to devote some development time to something else. Keep it on the ships for now. We're all right with that. All right?
I'd be okay if the most they do is you can throw a couple of incendiary grenades into a house and light it on fire, in terms of, like, a base. It's fine. Like player bases and ships, the same thing.
Yeah. You know what? Hey, player bases and ships, because they didn't make those.
No.
I could see them being okay with that. You know, you want to make it just player bases and ships? Down, guys. You do never have to do it on, a landing zone, settlement. I don't even know what that would cost you. Permanent hangars cost you a lot. So let's not worry about, like, setting fire to the landing zones you've handcrafted. All right, we don't need to do that.
That's a whole
none of us need it.
Realmcaster, that's a whole other can of worms. Lightning strikes.
Yeah. Oh,
not even conversation.
That's
oh, man, where is lightning strikes, by the way? God, they showed that off, and I want it so bad.
I mean, I want leather, but I'm of the opinion, like, I can't wait to play.
I'm sorry, did you say you want leather?
I mean, yes.
Whoa.
I can't wait to put on some, moody noir jazz and fly through Area 18 while during a rainstorm. All right, like that's That's
The
just
weather.
yes, weather.
Weather. I get it. Oh, he was talking about weather, guys. Sorry. And then he started bringing up the noir space jazz, and I was like, I don't know where Paul's going anymore. We're just riding this train. We see where it ends up.
I thought you were just messing.
We're
with
all in
me.
it together, guys. I thought he said leather.
Yeah. Or things like from the infamous 2016 Sandworm gameplay, like sandstorms or fog. Like we do have a little bit of fog, but like actual fog. But
volumetric, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's kind of our end of our discussion. We're going to move into the question and answer section of things. But because I've been kind of breaking these up a little bit, I break up this. So this is a recorded segment that I post up on YouTube after the fact. And if you've been enjoying this so far, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. If you're watching this on YouTube live, hit the do all that sort of thing. If you're watching this on Twitch live, hit that follow button. And if you want to watch the question and answer session after the fact, I will leave a link right above Axis's head. And you click that link, and it will take you to the video, or in the kind of chapters. I'll have it broken out so you can just go straight to the Q&A session and listen to the rest of the video if you'd like to. But for now, we're going to take a few minutes break. We'll be right back. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Spider web.
Yeah.
They have to use.
We're going to be taking a few minutes here, chat. We're going to grab something to drink and stuff like that. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be right back. Yeah, we're talking about leather. That's the discussion. That's the questions. Ask questions about leather gameplay. Okay. There we go. We're back. Welcome back to the question and answer session with Axis 0096 and Night Cop. Make sure that you are following and subscribe to Access and check out it's on Tree's channel, right? The Armchair Admirals and Generals. You know.
Yeah, no, I've got like a Twitch channel. Please, y'all don't. I saw a couple of y'all do it, and I was like, oh no, don't subscribe me on Twitch. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, go throw Tree 0311 or follow Atirakel on YouTube. I'm sure I can type their links into chat here in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, go follow one of those two guys. They actually create content more regular than me. I just happen to appear in it. So
yeah,
he's the important guest.
I like it that way.
Oh gosh, what was it? Rumcasters bringing up the lightning strikes, and all I can think about is I think it was like Apollo 14 or Apollo 15 when they.
Yeah, there was a Apollo rocket that was
lifting Apollo 12. Yeah, it got hit by lightning like when it was taken off, and they had to. They had to like it was one of the situations. I forgot who it was, but it was like this one guy who had literally been obsessing about it, or it was like the one thing he really knew. And so when it came, he was like, everyone's like, what do we do? We haven't done this. And this guy was just like, do this. It's like, this is what we do. And everyone's like, how do you know? He's like, this is the one thing I like remember, like 100% do it. And they're like, okay, do it. They said, do this, and they did it. And the Apollo astronauts did it. And then they responded back something with like, they called them a steely-eyed missile man, which is a compliment amongst people who fly. I know in space, but I think it's like a military compliment originally. So, was it Apollo 13 that happened? I don't think it was Apollo 13 because it was one of those where they actually landed on the moon, or like they managed to do the full system. So, I'd have to.
I'm having trouble remembering, to be honest with you.
Let me double check.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up real quick. Apollo lightning strike.
Apollo 12.
Apollo 12. Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Let me see the launch.
There. I posted links in your chat, Paul. Thanks for letting me do that.
No problem.
The people that deserve the follows.
So let me see. Let's see.
And while you're looking up, I will plug, please, if you guys do go watch Tree 0311, if you want a more in-depth discussion on engineering, damage control, philosophies, and all that kind of stuff, and how they might apply to Star Citizen, he and Atira and I went deep into the weeds, and I shared a bunch of Navy philosophies and how they could easily be applicable in Star Citizen, given the style of gameplay that they're building and stuff. So if you're into that stuff, he's got old videos, about a year old now, on his channel that go into great detail about that engineering discussion. Give him a follow. He puts out some really good content, and it all goes to a charity, military charity. So
yeah,
for PTSD.
Yeah, they do PTSD, and they do a bunch of events and stuff like that. So they help.
Oh yeah, you did a drive for him.
Yeah,
a while back before I left.
So yeah, they're good people.
Yeah.
So this was the famous one. It was SCE to Aux. That was the name. That was what it was. Is they had set SCE to Aux, which is signal conditioning equipment. So it was one of those things where they didn't know what to do. They figured out what it was, and so they responded to told the astronauts what to do, and they were like, "Okay, can you repeat what you just said? Can you say okay? All right. Where is that located on the panel? I need to know where it is located on the panel. I don't no idea what you're talking about." So, I was reading through a full breakdown on NASA's website about like complete with timestamps and like transcripts and like pictures of like where all of this stuff was. So it's like, yeah, thank you, NASA. Thank you for recording your history.
Dude, say what you want about NASA. You know what they're really good about? They're really good about publishing their mistakes and allowing us to take the issues with their programs and apply them to what we do. You know, it's just like the Challenger thing. The entire quality assurance program in the United States Navy is derived from what happened with the Challenger. And don't be wrong, other agencies have adopted it too. NASA's super good about publishing that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then really good at hiding the stuff they really don't want you to find out. So
Yeah.
it's really great. And in the way they've diverted the organization into, both being great and not so great.
Yeah, that's super good. They'll tell you about all about the mistakes, and then they'll hide about the secret program that they have where they've built the lizard colonies on the moon.
Yeah.
And
NASA's definitely a treasure. That's why it's working out so well. Just ask Elon. Sorry.
All right.
Those are all jokes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they landed, guys.
Steve,
like in there.
Let's get to the first question, which is Steve the Dancer, who asks, do you feel instead of having a seat on a ship for engineering, it should be a page on your mobiGlas? No. I want everything possible to be off the mobiGlas that could be off the mobiGlas. I could see an engineering app, maybe, but like a monitoring app, not necessarily like a maintaining.
Yeah, you have to interact with the systems to maintain it, but you can monitor it remotely. I'm down with that too.
Yeah. What do you think, Axis? Do you think you should be able to manipulate it on your mobiGlas?
Oh, on a screen? No. I think we should be able to do it physically, like we're about to.
Okay. Well, you're saying NASA? NASA. You're saying NASA, Nightcub, NASA Nightcub. I saw Fastcart saying NASA's great, and then I immediately, my brain did the 404.
He is brain poison, man. I love Fastcart to death, but you could easily just watch him in chat and be like, "Oh God, he's trying to demonetize you from chat."
Yes,
that's what's happening right now.
Well,
you were asking me though.
Yeah.
I was in whole agreement with you. I feel like if you're going to do engineering related tasks, you got to be interacting through an engineering panel or an MFD, and on the ship itself or on the facility once that becomes a thing. But remote monitoring, I think that should totally be a thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's asked earlier because it was brought up in the chat, which is like, should we be able to start and stop our ships remotely or access, like open and close our ships remotely? What do you think?
I'm fine with the remote opening, the garage door opener effect, but I feel like there should be some limitation to remote starts. Don't get me wrong. I know we live in the world of like I can remote start my car, but my car doesn't run on a hydrogen power plant, with the potential for catastrophic failure.
Yeah, it doesn't run on a mini
when I try and
reactor,
remote start it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My car doesn't have weapon systems and shield components. It's kind of one of those things. It's like I don't remote start. I'm sure nobody remote starts an F-22. Like there's a reason for that. There should be somebody in there going through a checklist. And I'm not advocating checklists, but you get the idea of just like, okay, this is a slightly more complex piece of machinery that has dire consequences if somebody were to start it up incorrectly and could cause damage, explosions, loss of life. Like I feel like we can live in the world of make believe where you need to be inside to monitor how that startup process goes. I don't care if it is just a singular fucking button on a console. I'm sorry,
it's fine.
Try not to curse.
We're well into there. We're like 3 hours into the stream, so it should be fine. So 2 hours into the YouTube stuff. So
okay.
Access, your thoughts? Remote start or remote access to like doors and stuff like that through your mobiGlas?
Remote start, maybe open and unlock doors, but from like a set distance. Okay. Probably dependent on the ship and size of the ship, maybe. Smaller ships you have to be closer to because they may not have a big enough transmitter to pick you up from a certain distance. Also, I would expect atmospheric conditions to interfere with radio waves, just like in real life, because your clicker on your car won't work as good in bad weather as it will a sunny day.
Also, literally, I could see it being a thing where it's like, because usually it's line of sight with those sorts of things.
Line of sight, yeah.
So, like, if you don't see it, if you're behind a wall, it ain't gonna do anything. So, I think that's really where it comes down to is the technical. Can CIG do it? They probably can, but how do they balance that? How do they balance the ability for you to go like open your mobiGlas and go open door, and then, you know, from a distance while and then sprint towards your open door while like you're in combat or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, how much do they want that, and how much do they rather you run up and like hit a button to open it and that kind of stuff. That sort of, you know, balance between the two, because it's just kind of a gameplay, the gameplay aspect of it.
Thanks for the insult, Jenna.
Jin is just salty. That's just how he works. All right. Next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, "What ship do you think the 7 unannounced? What ships do you think the 7 unannounced ships are?" In the monthly reports, they've mentioned there are 7 unannounced ships, 3 of which are in gray box, 4 of which are in white box. I'm going to take the obvious answer and say, I don't know. That's why they're unannounced.
God damn it, Paul. You don't get to like take the easy out first. That was going to be my thing. I've been gone for 6 months. Like, I could have just said that. Now, there's 2 people that are going to say that.
I'll go for the hopium whole thing. It's going to be my idea for a medium to large bounty hunting ship. That's a prisoner that doubles as a prisoner transport. A starter ship from Crusader. A new miner. Or a new salvage like the Arastra, or like between the Vulture and the Reclaimer. It'll be like a medium salvage.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, the whole thing. But you know, what do you think, Axis?
Well, we've had a sneak peek in the last 24 hours of a MISC unknown ship.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very unusual look to it, but it's definitely still unknown, because I literally went to task with some members of Soul Citizens last night, looking over, ships in the MISC line that are not out. It is none of them. So whatever it is, brand new MISC ship, but it is definitely MISC by the clean stainless lines.
Mm-hmm.
And the shape language. So you can definitely tell it's MISC. Oh, C-Daddy's in chat.
Oh yeah, C-Daddy's saying we know, Paul. C-Daddy's saying that tells me that it's all Redeemers. It's just 7 Redeemers. 7 Redeemer variants. That's what it is. Nightcob, any guess? I mean, I'm only guessing some of these because these are some of the ideas that people have floated around there. Obviously there's a lot of Dorito ships.
Yeah. Somebody took my guess, and I don't know how cool you are with me saying it. They put it in chat that Mirai,
the Fat Fury,
the larger, the Fat Fury. Yeah. Dude, I want that ship. I know that there's a leaked picture out there, and I'll be honest with you. If you're upset about it, I'm sorry, but it looks badass, and I'm excited about it. If that's the truth,
it looks like
don't hold it against me. Yes, it does. It looks like a fat TIE interceptor, and I love the TIE interceptor and how it looks, and I want it. So if that leak's not true, and you're looking for a good design to copy and or modify and build off of, man, we could do some more TIE interceptors, and I'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, it would like basically taking a Fury and turning it into an actual ship rather than a snub. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I think that's a general good idea.
I love the Fury as it stands right now. You give me a bigger version of that, and I'm down.
And all you got to do is do a Star Wars inspired skin for the Scorpius and a Star Wars inspired skin for this Fat Fury, and then you've got yourself a May the 4th skin reveal right there. So,
y'all, I don't buy spaceships. I spend all my money on peripherals. In fact, thank God the camera's not low enough that you can see what I have in front of me. But Jesus, talk about stuff that would make me real tempted to at least buy the paints. Maybe the ships if they're exclusive to like Star Wars style paints for TIE interceptors / X-Wings. I'm freaking down.
It's not a leak, Gentanic, is it?
Gentanic. Yeah.
Gentanic,
where the MISC leak came from. It was a
preview. It's a sneak
preview posted yesterday.
Yeah, it was posted. It was the one that they send out in their newsletters at the end of the week. They always send like a sneakily peekly, and that was the sneakily peekly was
that was an official one.
It looks. It's got the hazard stripes. It's stainless steel. It has all of the hallmarks of a MISC design. So, yeah, the sneak peek. The one
There's
that
been
is,
a rumored. There's been a rumored fourth Zeus for a long time.
yes, the
Reason.
like I forgot what it was called. I'm losing my Inforunners credentials for that. It's because it's the Inforunners were the ones who were like, yes, this is definitely it. This is definitely it's going. They're going to be a fourth Zeus, and it's going to be this. The ST, yeah. So, but yeah, it's hard to tell with the ships because I also want to, like, I'll just say I don't think of those 7 ships. I think probably maybe the 3 that are in gray box will be the ones we actually see this year. The rest of them are probably not coming into the game until like 2025 because it's like, oh yeah, we're doing white box, and it's like, okay, unless those things are tiny ground vehicles, there is no way you're going to see, white box ships in July end up being released until like February of next year. So
the Crusader starter that's been rumored for years. That's about the only.
I hope that's true though, because I'll be honest with you, I hope they figured out the formula for IAE is to throw a new starter in there. Because I feel like they just have talk about what a moneymaker for them that doesn't bother me at all for what they produce as ships. I feel like variety in starter ships is the way to go. You guys know though, I know I brought it up on Paul's stream a couple times. Like that's literally all I've got is a starter ship because I want all the progression, available to me once, unless they do the Fat Fury with a specific Star Wars style skin, then maybe I'll think about breaking my rules again. But I at times thought about doing other ships, and I've always dialed back down to a starter. But man, I just love the idea of more variety with the starters. You do a sexy Crusader, and I might melt and divert. I won't escalate levels of ships and ruin my progression, but I'll happily go and pick a different starter or something like that.
There's a good.
Do we have an Anvil starter ship? Yes, it's the Pisces. The Pisces is the Anvil starter ship. Yeah,
that's the bare bones one though, Paul.
Yeah,
45. Now, tier 2, we don't.
No, and we don't have a tier 1 MISC starter.
That is a good point.
We have the Reliant, but that's considered a tier 2 starter. So
there's a lot of starter ships they can do.
That poor B-Wing, man.
Yeah.
CIG, give that thing some love. Jesus. That and the Titan.
It needs more junk in its trunk. That thing needs to be a 12 SCU minimum carrying capacity. I'd settle for twin 16 for a total of like a 32 SCU kind of carrying capacity for that, because that's a good advanced starter, something that's around the same size as what is that one?
The Avenger Titan.
No, I'm thinking the one that's the pickup truck, the one that's got the open back.
The Nomad.
Nomad.
Yeah. The Nomad's got like a 48 SCU or something like that on it. So, or no, it's got like 30 something SCU. But yeah, something around the Reliant needs more carrying capacity for the Corey to be good.
Yeah.
I could see Crusader doing something the size of the Nomad, just below the Spirit line, in price range, like a C0 or something.
Yeah, or
I don't know.
Yeah, 24 SCU apparently is what the Nomad has. So yeah, I could see like that. That's 12 SCU. 12 SCU.
I mean, the C1 carries 64 SCU of cargo alone.
Yeah,
doesn't need that. That's not a starter.
Yeah, but I mean, the Reliant should be at least a 20 SCU carrier, like 20 to 18 or something like that. Because right now it's got such to put it into comparison for everyone. The 315P has more cargo than the Reliant. It's like it's smaller. It has its own bed. It has a built-in tractor beam. It's not great, but it's a lot better in a combat situation than a Reliant is. So, and I really do want to see the Reliant do good because it's so cool. It's such a cool idea, and it just needs to be better. So yeah,
That's any mods in chat. Are there any mods in chat? Somebody do something about Fast Cart.
Oh, is Fast Cart doing the leather question?
No, actually,
Yeah.
a decent question though.
I mean, I was expecting
a good
this
question.
I was expecting leather gameplay questions, and if they came out, I was going to start talking about Kazi Grazer and
I'm gonna have. God
yeah.
dang it! Oh, he is a mod. He's got a sword next to his name.
Yes, I gave
Oh
him a
my
mod a long
God.
time ago.
Oh man.
It's okay if he wasn't a mod, all the rest of my mods would thought it was too funny, and they wouldn't ban him, because QPan is also here. Is my volume lower? I can turn my volume a little bit. There we go. I'm just trying to keep it as nice and even so that we're not peaking for everybody. All right. Next question comes from Del Ener, who asks, CIG hinted that military stealth and possibly competition components are heading towards being loot rewards and removed from shops. How would each of you want CIG to do that? Give me your design docs in a short term, long term for Star Citizen. I don't think we can do design docs, but I'll start with Nightcob on this one. Would you want CIG to do that, to transition from being able to purchase equipment to it being more, loot or rewards?
I'm tracking your question. I got you. I've actually been thinking about this for a long time because it's been one of my primary complaints about the game, because it's legit. Like, they brought it up, and man, Jared spent a long time talking about it during SEL, and I was like, these are all great words, man. We really need to see this in game, because after you've been playing it for a few years, outside of the experience, it's like, I need a reason.
Mhm.
Need a reason to drive down and log in and go after things. And so, one, I love the idea that it's a loot pool item. In rare places, hard to get to places, hard to achieve of an objective for a mission or whatever. But man, I really want them to include multiple options of like rep gating. You want a military grade drive? Cool. You need to do some hard work for the CDF. When Xenothreat comes online, you better be like, oh, snap. Xenothreat's going. I need to get in on this. I need to go after and hopefully it would be less about the money and more about the reputation gain when you put um your life on the line, once death of a spaceman is a thing and stuff like that, and there's a solid consequence to death. And it's like, okay, I'm going after Xenothreat, guys. Like, I need to get in a multi-crew ship. That's the best chance of survival and best chance of walking away with some significant rep rewards that result in, hey, next level of reputation that now allows me to buy X number of, military grade A grade A weapons, grade A coolers, whatever. And it doesn't have to be military. I'm using that
Yeah.
example a lot, but you get the idea. Like, wouldn't it be nice if, okay, you're a high level racer on the racing circuit, you got a lot of reputation for racing for a given organization because you race under their banner or whatever. Now you got access to competition drives, or maybe you get lucky, and if you're a pirate player who isn't afforded the opportunities of reputation, lawful reputation gameplay where you would get these things like military grade drives, maybe you have the option to either steal them from ships likely to have them, or you have the option to loot them. And I
Mhm.
just want there to be multiple options like that. And I'm okay with the idea of, maybe I've got the rep, I can buy so many drives per, week or
Mhm.
whatever, and maybe I sell them to you. I'm fine with that too, because then I've got the right to charge an exceptional amount of money, and it's a player economy on a black market.
Good.
And maybe you need to have the rep to possess them. That'd be cool too. God, that would be cool. But I think that's ways down the road before they build that functionality into the game. But I feel like rep gating and loop pools, that feels a lot closer. And I feel like we could do that sooner rather than later. They've already got proven systems like CDF, rewards for the CDF armor and stuff like that they had at one time for Xenothreat. They were able to make that work to some degree.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not that far away. At least, God, I hope not. From rep gating equipment at shops and stuff like that with all the new shop kiosks. I was hoping they were building all that in the back end, and they're just like not talking about it yet. But
Yeah. I mean, they even in
we
last
need in-game rarity.
Yeah, in games, or CIG even was talking about at CitizenCon, like the idea of having specific things that are special that are locked behind rep gates for like the hauling professions. The last at CitizenCon, they're talking about the hauling professions being their testing grounds for that sort of idea of getting rep based rewards. So
Yeah.
I'm on board with that idea. Like effectively, we need to have the best gear be behind reputation walls, because those need to you either need to be earning your way to get to that, or you need to know somebody who has them. Because like in a game like Star Citizen, where people can purchase larger ships, the actual kind of gameplay needs to come down to, but do you have the right equipment for that ship for it to function the way it's supposed to, or are you just going to use the basic material, which is going to cause problems, or it's too cheap or whatever. And so now you have to like, okay, yeah, I've got to earn my reputation. I have to get this stuff. And so now suddenly you while you're building up your war chest for whatever you want to do, you also have to keep in mind, okay, do I work with these people because these people hate these people? So, like Ninetales hates Tesia. So Ninetales and Tesia missions, if I do one, the other one's going to get hurt. If you do this one, the other one's going to get hurt. I've been doing MechWarrior 5 playthrough with a couple of friends, and they have that system in place in MechWarrior 5. Like if you do enough missions with one faction, you get bonuses. Like you even get more money, more salvage, more like safety cushions. But the more you do with those factions, they're going to be fighting other factions, and those factions will hate you more and more and more. And so you'll lose to the point where you can't really get any rewards because you're so hated by them, or even maybe missions in terms of that sort of direction. So if you
love the idea along that lines of like, and I really wish it's the choice of consequence, or the consequence of choice. And I just imagine a day when it's like, and I know I hate hitting the imagine button with Star Citizen these days. Imagine. Yeah. Imagine leather. Imagine. Sorry. You're like doing contracts for bearing, and as a consequence, like all of a sudden you have a hard time now purchasing, Klaus and Werner laser repeaters. And I apologize, Paul, if I'm totally contrary to lore.
No.
But that's the idea. Like you are so immersed in their competition that they're like, yeah, I'm not selling you our best and brightest, laser repeaters. You can keep buying your bearing crap because you seem to do so much work with them. I would just love that. I would love that if like all of a sudden certain weapons are no longer as available to me, or I have to like go to a buddy that's got Klaus and Werner rep and be like, hey man, I need a couple laser repeaters. I'll pay you.
Yeah. That's actually not too far off from lore. Klaus and Werner used to work. I think it was Werner. No, it was Klaus. The guy whose last name was Klaus worked for Bering, and he built. He at one point he was like, these are really inefficient, and so he built his own weapons and showed them to Bering. It was like, see, these don't have as many moving parts, so they don't break as much. And Bering said, that's great, Klaus, but let me explain to you about this thing called money and government contracts. If it breaks more, we can sell them replacements. So we continue to keep money. So we want them to break more. And Klaus was like, that's going to get people killed. And Bering said, but we need money. And so Klaus got disgusted with them, left, founded his own company because Werner was a famous widow who had a bunch of money. And so they worked together and created Klaus and Werner, and so that's where the Klaus and Werner came from. So yeah, it would make sense that Klaus and Werner and Bering do not like each other. They're quite literally the opposites of the spectrum in terms of designing, versus the built it once and it works forever, versus you're going to have to buy replacements, but it's cheap. So,
Dig Dug, I'm with you. Like I really liked Bering until just now when Paul explained this to me.
I mean,
I was digging their stuff until just now.
Bering is also makes everything. Like they make the microwaves in your habs. They make
they're General Electric. I think I heard you describe.
Yeah, they're General Electric.
That's so true. Nuclear reactors.
Yeah,
the GAU 8 cannon on the A10, and microwaves. It's like, oh man, we've really got our hands in everything. They're omni consumer products from RoboCop.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. That's how I look at Bering.
Yeah, they make everything from the rail cannons, shipbuster rail cannons on a Bengal carrier to your washing machine.
Yeah. They're probably, buying up, privatizing police forces and buying up housing at reduced costs after, influencing the crime rate. Isn't science fiction fun? You
Yes.
know?
This is why.
Disney.
I'm
Now
sorry,
you're demonetized.
Yeah. How about you, Axis? How would you kind of move towards the whole taking like the some of the specific components, like the high grade components, off of the market and into the loot tables and reputation based? What would be your process?
Same with Nightcob's comments, but I would also add exclusive stores gated behind reputation, because some manufacturers, you may only be able to get them some systems, maybe shipyards and certain places. Well, some military components on, some military ships, you can't even replace by yourself because they're too big. You might need to take it to dry dock, especially capital ships.
Speaking of PTSD.
Dry dock.
It's all right.
Did I say something bad? Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna have a sip of beer and we'll continue.
All right, next question from Steve That Answer, who asks, how do you feel engineering deals with stealth? A lot.
Axis, you got to go first on this one.
Yeah.
What's that?
How do you feel engineering
first
deals
on
with stealth?
It's vital, because if it's not tuned to a specific amount, you may not be stealth at all. Look at stealth bombers. They have to have their paint recoded, or well, calibrated and coded.
Yeah.
They have specific paint for a reason, and they have specific angles for radar deflection.
To make sure it's all smooth and stuff. Yeah, I agree. I think engineering is going to be the catalyst, because stealth really, when we're talking about stealth, we're talking about sensors. Sensor gameplay is going to be huge, and they need engineering to be in so that sensor gameplay can work. And I think that they go hand in hand. It's kind of like the new star map and then the mobile glass and all of the other things. Like it's all really one system. It's just built on top of each other as they move along. Like that's
radar
the keys.
emissions too will be key.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Heat, radar
to be very stealth, or also emit low IR. It depends on the situation, though.
Yeah. Nightcop.
I'm not military, but I know that.
Nightcop.
Well, I asked him to go first for reasons, because I was like, I feel like if I tread into this topic, it gets dangerous for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just gonna echo it for the most part.
Okay.
It's if you don't, I agree. I think this goes back to what I was talking about for a previous example of, like, I feel like there's such an opportunity for the idea of maintenance on components, the maintenance on, like your coolers, your shield generators and stuff like that. Specifically if they're stealth components. I love the idea, if I'm going to fly an Aegis Eclipse and I want to stay undetected, and when I'm in quantum travel, or if I'm just, waiting, I'm sitting, maybe I'm doing the full stealth gameplay of, I'm waiting on a bounty, I'm waiting on him to come out of Grim Hex or whatever, I'm sitting in the asteroid field, hiding, trying to keep my cross section low. What an opportunity it is for me to improve and or maintain my emissions as best as possible for just tuning it. Doing that idea of like tuning them, maintaining the components, from my MFDs, adjusting the power, um, and just basically any kind of gameplay related to engineering that aids in my ability to maintain stealth. And I think that's one of the best opportunities. You want to play in stealth gameplay, maybe you got to dip into engineering a little bit and understand it, because I agree, it's kind of a crucial element. The thing about stealth is it is inherently design.
Mhm.
You don't achieve stealth without good design. And then supporting that design is usually high maintenance. It's usually high consequence if
Yeah.
you don't do the things that you're supposed to do to maintain that design. That's as far as I'm going to go. to maintain the design of whatever you're operating and stuff like that. So if you don't do those things, you sacrifice the stealth capabilities or whatever. If you don't maintain the equipment on your ship, if you don't replace it regularly when necessary, or do the right maintenance on it, then you are sacrificing your stealth capabilities. And it should be immediate and real. Like, I know I used military earlier, but if I had to pick one of the two categories that would require the most maintenance, it would be stealth and maybe competition. I don't know. Guys, I don't race cars for a living, so
Yeah.
maybe somebody's standing by in chat to correct me on that. But I feel like that's a maintenance high, because it's high consequence. If those competition components, because they're overtuned usually, fail. But bottom line, stealth would be, you need to maintain that. You have to maintain that, because if you don't, you're sacrificing your advantage.
Yeah. It's the thing. It's there's so many interconnected systems that we haven't fully seen for that. It's key. That's the kind of thing. So, all right. Next question, Kelmore. What do you think the tuning and overclocking portion of engineering could be? I'll start with this one because I have opinions. I have opinions.
I'm super sorry, Paul. I lost you real quick. What was the question again?
Oh,
if you don't mind?
What do you think the tuning and overclocking portion of engineering could be?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I have opinions on this one. I have opinions. The tuning and overclocking, I think the idea of overclocking is dead. I think the idea of having a specific system where you can overclock a component and it requires your own special touch, I think that's gone away. And instead, we're going to have subcomponents and subcomponent swapping and other and manufacturing. I think that's really where we're going. I think tuning is still going to be a thing, but I think it's going to be more simplified. Like, if they still have subcomponents, like, oh, I'm going to take this Aegis subcomponent and this RSI subcomponent and this, Drake subcomponent, and I'm going to put them together because I know they have unique aspects that is going to change, like improve the shield regen by 10%, decrease heat buildup by 2%, and increase like shield health by 5% or whatever. These little sort of nodules that you can put, these little boosters you can put on, and then you can swap them in and out for those different boosts. I may be influenced because there's a game called Mecha Break, which is coming out soon, which I played, and it had that idea where each mech had different subcomponents you could swap out for different boosts, so you could improve specific aspects, but it would also have a downside, like a small decrease in buff in somewhere else, so you would be sacrificing one for the other. I think that's more likely where we're going with overclocking and tuning than the original idea. Nightcup?
Stole all my words, man.
I'm just good at that.
Yeah.
Axis?
I literally don't even want to add anything. Sorry.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What do you think? What do you think about tuning and overclocking when it comes to engineering?
I'm with you on the subcomponents thing, because you either have parts that enhance one thing or something else, maybe more energy, more power to a specific part of the ship, more fire control, more power steering or whatever. I'm just spitballing here.
Kazram says RIP Endeavor Super Collider. I think instead of the Endeavor Super Collider being a supercharger or overclocker or anything like that, I think it's more likely that it's going to be essential for part of the manufacturing process, or science process. Like, I could see it being something like, if you want to build certain quantum drives or certain, power plants, you need that super collider because it's going to get you those rare elements that you need, like that 1.001% that makes up the shield reactor for the power plant that you need. You can only get it in a super collider, and you're going to need to have one of those. And if you have a portable one in a ship, there you go. So it'll be more of I think it's more of a balance on that one. All right, next question. Go ahead, Axis.
What's that?
I thought you were going to say something.
No.
Oh, okay. The Dex Trenchcoat asks, question, how likely are we to see sabotage as an option via engineering? Yes. Axis, what do you think?
Absolutely. Tell me there isn't a cutthroat that won't want to get on a capital ship, sabotage it, and then wait for his friends to come and get you all.
Let's just drop the cutthroat. My friends will do that to me.
That's a free.
You know how many times I have been flying a ship where back when you could a co-pilot could turn off the ship by hitting power. How many times I'd be flying in an atmosphere and they'd hit the power button intentionally, so we'd start dropping. And it's like, I don't know what's going on. Then they're just laughing like, we're all gonna die, but this is funny. Like, of course they're gonna do that.
We're science. This would be his forte.
Oh yes. What do you think, Nightcop? We're gonna see sabotage. What do you think of sabotage as engineering?
I'm with you, Paul. I'm a strong yes. And Fast Cart's accusing me of looking sus. Look, man, I'm an agent of chaos, is what I like to call on the submarine, right? Because I get bored. And if I get bored, and just like everybody else when they're playing a video game, if you get bored or there's a temptation to get bored, then you're gonna want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, CIG has given us every reason to believe that they facilitate that style of gameplay. Like med pens and landing zones, authorized for a hot minute. And it was like we were literally overdosing each other with drugs. Agents of Chaos just literally run around the universe. And I think it amused them more than anything else. They turned it off after a while.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things where I feel like they're just going to be, yeah, we'll let them be agents of chaos and we'll see what that looks like. And then we'll put in the controls like, hey, you have to have designated roles because they've mentioned that on ships. It's like you can't access the engineering displays unless you're the engineer, the captain, or, maybe whoever else the captain of the ship assigns. Because until they do that, it's agents of chaos everywhere. And we will be agents of chaos. I'll be an agent of chaos. Baskard will be an agent of chaos. Paul's probably an agent of chaos.
I am an agent of chaos. I like chaos. So,
yeah. Because that's what you do when you're in an enclosed environment with other people and you have the opportunity. Like, why wouldn't you do it?
All right. Next question comes from Trouble Magnet, who asks, should some people have breakers instead of fusers? Or some ships have breakers instead of fusers as an option? It still need to be manually reset, but and have wear and tear, but not the one-time use items. I don't know. My initial thought is no, because you want to keep it simple, because there's already enough complexity. And to know, hey, wait, does this ship have fuses or breakers? It's that sort of like question about what is going where. I think you can get the same sort of aspect by getting different value breaker or value fuses. So like, oh yeah, this ship has a high quality fuse, whereas this one is a Drake fuse, so it's a piece of chewing gum stuck between two connectors. It's various value, which will give you cheap versus like highly resilient, but also like you want to get the higher value ones, which would be better, but they still blow, so you still have to replace them. So it's just going to end up costing you more money, but you get maybe that 0.3% or 4% or whatever slight bonus to what you're doing, or it's a little bit more resilient overall, that kind of thing. Yeah, I would say fuses is probably better. What do you think, Nightcop?
I'm with you. We need more money sinks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got to have stuff that's expendable, consumable, that you're going to have to spend regular money on to replace because they're only going to last a certain amount of time. Like I really need like landing storage fees, fuse replacement, removal, lack of reusability for certain components, things that I have to regularly deplete my wallet on to drive me to want to earn money, want to yield a higher profit value on a given mission. We need that stuff. We need it. So anything that supports that style of gameplay, I'm on board for.
Do you think, okay, I'll go with you on that one, Nightcall, but I'll throw this chip. Do you think power plants will be more that type of component than a a switch box where all the, where the power relays are.
If you're talking about like the power plant component itself,
Yeah.
what my imagine is for that I would like to see is you've got a certain lifetime associated with it. You
Right.
can potentially extend that lifetime with regular and dedicated maintenance, depending on and I think the bang for your buck on that should be based on what the component is itself. If it's a civilian component, hey, semi-regular maintenance will extend the lifetime of a civilian economy power plant for a given time. Like bottom line is if I do the bare minimum maintenance on my Honda Civic style, like mentality of like that thing will last 200,000 miles. Whereas if I do dedicated weekly maintenance on my, stealth power plant, maybe I can extend the lifetime of that thing, an additional 4 months to 4 to 8 months. And I'm throwing out weird numbers, but just for idea purposes, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that would be what I would like for those components. But eventually the maintenance either becomes too excessive to maintain or the cost, and it's going to need some kind of replacement, and that should be, again, the imagine world, should be influenced by how many times you've taken damage to it. It's one thing if I've flown my Aegis Eclipse and I haven't taken a shot because I've been living the hunter killer lifestyle and, I'm just that good. And my torpedoes hit first and I don't pick fights I can't win, that's a big thing. Whereas if I'm in an Aegis Gladius and I'm constantly in the mix of a dogfight and I've, repaired the power plant 8 times, from near full death, that power plant is on its last legs and it's on a limited time span. I like those ideas. I don't think they're necessarily all implementable. But some factor of it. I like the idea of regular maintenance on a regular but infrequent maintenance on an economy makes it last longer. Regular and dedicated and frequent maintenance on a military might buy you some additional time, but something to that effect. Those are not hard examples, just something that I would like to see.
We're talking about it's mostly balance. The key thing is here is this is balance and wear and tear, like economy stuff. Excuse to purchase things, like the idea that I think as Troublemaker just said, CIG is eventually going to make everything wear out eventually. It's one of the depressing realities of the universe is that everything dies eventually, even stars.
Yeah.
So it makes sense as without going the full like Legend of Zelda it's not Wind Waker, the one of the most recent ones where like everything breaks, like you just a system where you only have like X number of swings on something before it breaks. They need to kind of straddle line between that and this power plant's going to last forever sort of thing. There's going to be some sort of balance in there. So
we all want Firefly. I want Haley in the engine room telling me like, look, this, if we don't land and replace this part, the next time we go up is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
I want that. Does anybody not want that?
I don't know. I want that. I want Scotty, Geordie LaForge sitting there being like, you're asking me to do insane things. And they're like, well, you always do it. And he's like, we're all going to die. I don't know how I'm going to keep maintaining this,
Yeah. And if anybody's telling me, like the engineer's telling me, like, I told you if we didn't replace this, we were going to be screwed. And you didn't listen to me. And here we up there in the firefight and we're screwed. Like, I want those moments.
Yeah.
I want those moments.
I also want the moments for the engineer where like the captain is like, we need this power now to get here so we can go. And the engineer is able to do it. And he just like, yes, I am a miracle worker. I am a good part of this team. Don't give me a gun because I can't shoot anything, but I'll make sure that you survive this fight and get out alive, kind of thing. Or we win, All right. Soulless Bill asks, I wonder if different brands will burn better, like a whole lot more burn on Aegis and everything else is stripped down. Everything stripped down is Drake. The Crusader material burns better than the pricier Origin. I think we're getting a little too into the weeds for that with fire there. Yeah. We'll see. Too much engineering reality might break the fun for some players. Well, yeah, but you also want a gameplay loop. It's clear that CIG wants a gameplay loop. So
Yeah, we want quality engineering sluts, and for them to have the opportunity to make a good bit of money, doing their thing as sluts. So that's the idea I feel like we should be going for. And sorry, Paul.
it's cool.
I told you he's not here. I told you he's not here. I mean, he is here, but he's not here. So somebody's gonna get to demonetize.
See, I was
the submariner that you invite on your show.
I was gonna say NG whores, because instead of engineers, NG whores. Good. Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm like mad that you thought of that first.
Because you got to differentiate.
I'm taking that back to work with me.
Yeah,
I'm taking that back to having to be like, all right, fellow NG whores.
Yeah.
All right. We got stuff to do today. Got to make that money.
Yeah. Slaves to the machine,
yeah, slaves for the machine god. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think they'll have different material that burns at different rates, obviously, but yeah, I think that we're getting that into that granular level. It's like maybe we should take a step back and figure out where things are going, where priorities are. All right, next question comes from Del Ener, who asks, how would y'all expand on the missions shown in ISC in the long term, like maintenance and picking crops, beyond what they demonstrated? Axis?
Well, the fire thing, there could be explosive containers. Well, we already have them.
Mm-hmm.
But things that we're carrying in our ships could be volatile. Other than quantanium, obviously, but maybe they spontaneously combust if they're not at the right temperature.
Okay.
Or, near materials that contact them, because good example of that. I forget what metal it is, but a certain metal and water don't mix, or even moisture.
Oh gosh, I want to say potassium, but that's wrong. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like I've seen those videos where they throw the metal into the water and it just explodes. Yeah, sodium. Yeah,
and potassium, both of them actually. So, yeah, if you were transporting that, you would want a completely sealed container.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, because we had hazardous missions before, but you're talking about like expanding it to the point where like
expanding it to have hazards to you, your crew, and your ship,
or even your other cargo. Like you you don't stick the water tank next to the sodium that you're transporting, because you get a breach in either one of those, you could have a nice problematic fire all over the place. So
exactly.
Potassium reacts with air. Okay, that's even better. It was actually interesting. I was talking to Radar Echo, who was mentioning like I was doing like the transport missions, and there are actually warning signs on the crates, and he was like, "Are those actual warning signs?" And I looked at them; they're all generics. And he was like, they definitely needed to do that. And I'm like, that actually makes sense, especially since they want to do hazardous missions, to have honest to God warning signs like do not reacts with air, do not get wet, or corrosive material or whatever, having different little symbols on them.
I've hazmat stuff myself, cleaning materials.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to get stuff like that in your food preparation or stuff like steel cleaner stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff's really nasty.
Gamers don't read. Yes, but it would be funny to watch gamers not read, and then their ship explodes, and you're like, what happened? Why my ship explode? It's like because you stuck the lithium batteries in next to a very hot source, like you're right next to your engine core. That's why your engine exploded, because you were stupid and didn't read the warning labels.
Another
I like it.
hostile material that could also create a fire, radioactive materials.
Yeah.
Improperly
shielded. I'm looking forward to that in there's a I saw a like an image, or it was a video. It was a short that someone did as a joke, where they're like, we found these great tubes in our backyard, and they like were digging up something, and it was like these tubes of uranium that was like dangerous, hazardous, like do not use. And they're like, these will make great, wind chimes. And it's like, my kids are playing with them. My dog is eating them. It's so nice. I'm going to stick it next to these crystals. And the whole filter on this, they had a filter on the video where it was like what would happen when you get too close to radiation. Like it was all grainy and white and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh no, what happened to my hands? And it ended. It was obviously like a kind of a trope. I was trying to make fun of the whole thing. But I'm like, that would be an interesting sort of addition to it's like why is my visor all weird in front of this? It's like, because you're in pyro and you just decided to go to a system that had a semi-active nuclear reactor that was abandoned 500 years ago. So now you're dealing with that side effect because you thought you could dilute it, the yellow cesium drop and run or samples. Yeah, those are the ones that were those rods. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that could include for cargo missions that would be very dangerous if improperly stored. And not just radioactive liquids like corrosives,
biological,
biologicals.
Yeah.
Hazmat. Oh God, viruses. Don't get me started now.
Or even like creatures, like
oh yeah.
Like
don't stick your hand in this cage unless you want to keep your hand.
Or like it's like flies. Inside of here, which is used for, pollination of certain plants in certain worlds. And it's like, do not open this crate because there are flies in here, or do not stick heat sources nearby or other things, because it might cause them to, mess up their mating cycles or whatever. Those sorts of little things that can happen.
Yeah.
So,
I'm down with it.
Yeah. Nycob, how would you expand missions that were showed on ISC? The examples were maintenance and picking up crops. What else beyond that?
I just want there to be, so obviously the picking up crops one is not going to be easy to do this. I want there to be some skill aspect to it. And I want there to be some reward for high, demonstrated skill. Like, you have these things inherently with combat related missions where it's like, okay, I take a bounty, I go, and if I'm good and I'm quick at dispatching that bounty, I take minimal damage to my ship. Therefore, I don't have to pay any significant repair costs. I get the rep. I avoid the consequence. Whereas, like, if you're doing maintenance on something, I want there to be some skill benefit. Like, if I'm good at tuning the equipment quickly, or, I know that this piece of equipment will not only fix it, or this specific subcomponent will not only fix it, but make it run better, that the NPCs or the mission reward givers or I'm just throwing out examples, but there's some reward to better skilled gameplay, something. That's what I really want. And if you're going to do missions, I just don't want it to always be, don't get me wrong, like collect 10 pieces of this plant and turn them into the farmer. Maybe if you did it in a quick time because you knew that this patch, or you're aware of an area where it grows better. I don't know. But if you do it in a time component, maybe you get a higher reward, more rep, something to reward the skill-based gameplay, or knowledge-based gameplay. I'm fine with knowledge-based gameplay too. But something. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's. I'm of the opinion, like when talking about like engineering stuff, that if players know what's going on, they can be better at that thing. So like to not handhold that sort of direction. So I know because there's a lot of people in chat were saying like, it's not real. Let's not make it real. Let's make it fun. It's like, yeah, but if you add some realistic elements to it where you kind of understand how electricity works, and those sorts of ideas, that you can apply that knowledge to the game, and now suddenly you have a slight advantage because you're like, oh, I know which one's going to break. I see the surge that's happening through this system. I know where to go. Or if you learned it because of like, you know, oh, well, I now know this in the game. It becomes better at it. So,
And you don't want, and to your point, you don't want experience to be immaterial in
Yeah.
a game like this. I feel like if it's skill-based gameplay, skill is based on experience a lot of the times. If you've experienced the game enough and you got, you know, the knowledge based, and I'm not saying like watching YouTube videos, you just play the game enough to know, hey, that works well with this because I learned that the hard way, or, you know, I learned it just by trying it out. And therefore, I'm more valuable as a teammate to you now because I've played this game and I understand certain aspects of it and I do better at these things because I know these things.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's I think we're all cool with that. Or at
Yeah.
least I hope we are.
How I would expand a lot of this stuff is probably like string them together. So like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So like
Chain
like you go to an outpost and like the local mayor of the outpost or local mayor of the village or whatever it is like, hey, yeah, we could use some help. You know, can you first go pick the crops? It's harvesting season. We need to get some help, some extra hands on that. So you go out and do that, and you gather and bring them back. Oh, that's great. But you know, you picking up some crops isn't going to make me think that you're good. You know, we need a little more trust from you, and then gives you kind of another mission to go repair this and go check on that. And if you chain these missions together, they can tell a little bit of a story. Maybe you run into other members of the village who happen to be like the apothecary or the medic or the chief engineer or, you know, the midwife or whatever, like just the different characters that you would have in the village. And they don't have to have like voice lines or, you know, crazy amounts of dialogue. You just know that they're like, oh yeah, I'm the local engineer, you know, good to meet you. You know, canned generic stuff would kind of.
Are we ready to talk about this now, Paul? This
Yes,
is where we're ready to
this
talk
is where we're
about
going
it.
to talk about
I know
it.
you said you warned me that we were going to bring this up.
I'm going to bring it up because
like,
you and I are the ones who kind of talk about this a lot, because I think that's the key part when it comes to these sorts of making missions better. Is there needs to be some sort of reality, because everything is so dead. It's so dead in game.
It's so
right
dead.
now. You know,
It's like playing in a world of mannequins, guys.
Yeah.
Mannequins that move, granted, and T-pose on their chairs or stand really close together, huddled on chairs, doing the Captain Morgan or whatever. But they literally just don't say anything.
Yeah.
They're so quiet, except for the dude at Grimhex. He's like my favorite NPC of all time. I know everybody hates him, but you gotta give him points. At least he's talking to us.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's not how people work. Like people, especially if you see a guy walking around like maintaining the facility, he's gonna be like humming to himself or like being like, God, fuck, and, you know, that sort of thing. It's going like you would hear these little things that would and you know, yes, in a city like say Lorville, it would just be a cacophony. But I should be able to pick out those cacophony as I walk through, because that would help me feel more like this is a city where people live, not a tomb.
like exactly. Like, I don't know what we have to do to get to wild lines. Just 5 or 6 wild lines in a given city that make sense within the lore of that city that you hear regularly. It would make a world of difference. And I get it. We'd all be tired of the, you know, just like we're all kind of tired of the welcome to Oris and, you know, the city in the clouds. But Jesus, it's like the only, I think we're just most tired of it because it's the only volume in the game outside of our own ships and other players. And, you know, it's like, come on, man, give me something. I watched that whole ISC. I'm with you. That's so, I don't know about you, but I was incredibly disappointed in the title.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you should have just called it non-combat encounters.
Yeah.
Not social behavior. Because there was nothing social about
antisocial behavior, you know?
Yeah, literally you just had NPCs silently picking crops, looking at you, gesturing at you at one point in time. And it's like, dude, I need them to talk. I don't need them to be full conversation interactable like Mass Effect style where I got to pick the blue or the red or the neutral, you know, chat option. But Jesus, we need them to start talking.
Yeah.
It's a sterile environment in this game 90% of the time.
It feels dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It does.
It's one of the reasons why it's hard to get people bought into the game, because it's like, oh yeah, it's beautiful and these ships are great and all these details. Like all of that doesn't matter if it feels like you're in an empty space. You need to have it, make it feel like you're in a space that people live in, so you can go, oh, this makes sense. I feel normal. You know. Sorry, you were saying something, Maxis?
I want guards to tell me when I'm going near a restricted area.
Yeah.
Hold up there, citizen. Please step back. This is a restricted zone. Authorized personnel only.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or
Believable.
Or if you're in Lorville, you walk up to the door and they just hit you with the butt of their rifle and drag you off to jail because you got too close and they have the right to do so.
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna need them to throw out some insults though. I need some verbal accusations and or beratement while they're doing it.
Hey, you were with my sister last night, right?
Not even just a quick fucking peasant, or something like that. Just some quick little thing. Oh, he's got a gun, he was coming straight for me, whatever. Del Ener with the insults. All right.
Hey man, I don't need to be read out loud for the rest of the chat. Okay. like we can just let people make assumptions, and whether they're true or not, that's immaterial. You don't need to call it out. All right. If you figured it out, that's fine. You don't need to tell everybody. All right. Some people like the mystery. Some people don't.
Yeah.
So let's keep it real for the other half that does. Okay. I appreciate you, Del.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying.
Shimpasta asks a question for the panel and more specifically Master Cobb. What are your
Yeah, submariners are weird, guys.
What are your thoughts on how to fix or maintain components that can be taken out of a ship?
They can't be taken out of a ship, or can?
That can't be. They can't be.
Oh, okay. I got you. He's talking about dry dock. I already finished my beer. I haven't gotten another one yet. My feeling on that is, I think they've talked about this, but I think I'm down with the idea of, hey, it's a large ship like a Carrack, and I still like my idea of, hey, that power plant's got a life expectancy, and you strive to maintain it as long as you can, but eventually you reach a point where it's like, guys, we got to replace the power plant. And what a lovely reason, money sink, even just like a motivation to go back to a major landing zone and stuff like that after you've been out in the wilds exploring for a while with your crew, your dedicated like regular players and stuff, and you got to go back to, I don't know, the nearest dry dock that's capable of replacing your component. And now it's like an excuse, like, hey, we might as well stock up, we might as well go run a couple of local missions or whatever while we're doing this because it takes time. I don't know, but I like that idea. I like the idea that you have that reason, to deal with that. And I like the idea that you can't just tractor beam a new component in there. Love that style of gameplay. It's the choice of, it's the consequence of choice of, I picked a big enough ship that requires that, and I've been running it, and eventually it's going to require some high level maintenance because it's a near capital sized or a capital sized ship. Like if you've been out in the wilds with your Polaris and Pyro just wrecking stuff, giving Xenothreat, what's what, with some size 10 or whatever they are torpedoes, and it's just time now to go do a dry dock and refresh the ship and all that kind of stuff. Man, I like that idea of gameplay. I really do. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. People are saying like, oh wait, so we have to have access panels that get cut off in dry dock. I mean, no. Like you go to dry dock and you are not touching that. You are letting the engineers in the in the shipyard who are trained to doing that deal with it. You cannot touch it. Like that's the disadvantage of having those components is that they'll work forever. They'll work for a long time, but when they're done, you're spending like a day in dry dock or longer, however long it takes to fix that thing. You're going to have to fly back, park your butt into civilization, and you don't have to deal with that.
I would also argue, depending on the ship's component and who makes it, it might be either gated behind reputation, and there'll probably be some price discrepancies too.
Oh yeah,
you may only be able to use certain dry docks with certain factions if you have a good standing with them. Otherwise, you might get blown out of the sky.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I'm not advocating player-driven dry dock maintenance.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. Like, really, the dry dock should be, in terms of gameplay, is like it's the It's the pause. You've been playing this game for quite a long time. Congratulations, you've managed to wear out the drive on a Carrack, which is designed to go forever into deep space and explore. Hey, as a reward, you're going to have to pause your gameplay with the Carrack for about a week. Don't worry, I know you've enjoyed your time with the Carrack for the last 373 days. It is time for you to take a break. Pay a little money,
And then you go back to that dry dock and it's like, hey, so-and-so's got this ship. We can go do some missions and stuff like that for a week while we wait for the Carrack to get back online. And that I think that's great. I honestly like that drives a reason to fly other ships and stuff like that and rely on other people in multiplayer. Like, please give us a reason.
Or rent a ship.
I'm not AWOL, y'all. I'm on leave.
They're talking about Tony Z.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, this looks weird, but I'm on leave. I'm on like stand down leave.
So Tony Z, for those of you who don't know, is still working at CIG, and as of like June, Space Tomato, one of Space Tomato's community members, ran into Tony Z in person, and they talked about Star Citizen. So for those of you who haven't heard that so far, Tony Z still works for CIG. It's just Tony Z is, I'm not going to say antisocial because he's not antisocial, but he's very private. And unless there's something for Tony Z to talk about and Tony Z to do, he's probably not going to do it or talk about it. So it's more of a, when Tony Z wants to speak, he'll probably speak. And I doubt he will come out and talk a lot until, the Quantum, which is now Star Sim, that the Star Sim is in a position that's beyond this. Here's an infographic we've done that they've done before. So
what you're saying is Tony Z is a lot like Tupac. Like, people see him around and about and everywhere, but he's keeping his presence on the down low, even while his music still keeps coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Tony Z is literally Tupac. That's the answer. That's what
I'm not saying he's literally Tupac. I mean, he doesn't look like a rapper. I'm just saying, like, and they were obviously very different people, but you're like him.
What you're saying is he's similar. I'm saying he is exactly the same. I am starting the rumor right now that Tupac went into
Tony
hiding
Z
and
is
became
Tupac.
Tony Z. Yes.
Yeah, Tupac is Tony Z. I get where you're going now.
Yeah,
I get where you're going. Sorry, y'all.
Next question.
Submariners are weird.
Comes from a fun fact. Actually, I was gonna say this. My wife, because her father was in the Navy and her grandfather was in the Navy, took the ASVAB, and when she took the ASVAB told her that her recruiters were like, you've got the scores and the ability, you could be a submariner, and she was like, no, I don't want to be a submariner. I don't want to be stuck at a tube at the deep depths for this long. This is. And the more I've known you, Nightcop, the more I'm like, no, yeah, that makes sense. A lot of I don't know why they said they called her. They said she's a submariner. It's just that kind of mentality.
She had the quote about the Marines as meat shields. Like,
yes.
Get behind the Marine shield.
Yeah.
The meat shields. Yeah. That's all checking with my charts.
Yeah. How do we get them? How do we get this? This guy to go somewhere? Oh, you said he's a Marine? Yeah. Just throw crayons down the hallway. He'll go that direction, or tell him that there's a big hunk of steak on the other end or something. It's all that sort of thing.
Y'all have met Tree.
Yeah.
At least a lot of you have, or at least seen him. I mean, it's true. You can use him as a poster boy. Crayon eater.
Shampasta.
Love that guy.
Asks a question for the panel. Oh no, we already asked that one. So it's Steve that answer asks, do you think 3.24 is ready for live in a week? CIG will push 3.24 to live with mining and the SRV broken. Do I think they will? Yes, I do think they will. I'm gonna keep it real with you, chat. 3.24 has been in P2 for a very long time, and CIG wants to move that needle towards 4.0. I think if they're like, hey, 4.0 is going to come out in October, we can leave things broken and fix them in 4.0, because likely 4.0 is going to break a lot more than just mining and the SRV. Then again, mining and SRV could be fixed in a week. We don't know the full details behind it. So, but they are on a highway to the danger zone, to hell, whatever. They are going. They can't drive 65. They are going straight to 4.0. Do not pass go. Do not collect $300, $200, whatever monopoly is, inflation. It's that they are dead set on that, and I think, yeah, they will release 3.24, probably more broken than we would expect it to be. So, what do you think, Axis?
I think basically, yeah, because they got to get to 4.0. They have to. They've run out of time to mess around with 3.24. I hate to say it. Mm-hmm. And they got to get 4.0 into Evo and then into PTU. So, yeah.
Backup?
I'll say it. CIG, if you're listening, y'all know the truth. Y'all got to get 4.0 at the bare minimum in open PTU or full release to live before CitizenCon. Y'all don't want that black eye. I know y'all don't want that black eye.
Yeah.
So I totally understand if you're going to steamroll 3.24 into live just so you can move on to at least testing 4.0. Totally acceptable. I'm not throwing any shade. In fact, I'm with you. I think you need to do that too. I'm on your side. Like, please don't allow anybody else to poo-poo on you guys for not having 4.0 in by CitizenCon this year. So totally, and we all need it. We want it. We want 4.0. I will gladly sacrifice 3.24 as a shit live patch and play DCS for a little while longer and Helldivers 2, despite how I'm part of the problem against Sony there. And all those other games for just a hot minute while we wait for 4.0, and then we'll jump right back into the game for 4.0. I'm fine with that. You should be fine with that. Let's just do it. And you want to avoid the black eye? I'm with you. I'm on your side.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I am of the opinion of move fast, break shit. So like the more they get that in, the faster it's going to go down the line. They need to get that initial Band-Aid ripped off for 4.0, just so we can no longer be on the road to Pyro. We can be on the future, whatever the hell that is. So,
where AI talks out loud. Like that's all we like. Whatever gets us closer to that dream. Yeah. Paul and I are for.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I am down for that. I was the reason why we talked about the AIs talking to each other is because I was watching the Moro tour from the 2015 CitizenCon, and it's rough, by the way, y'all. If you look at it's a Squadron 42 kind of demonstrations, the first like gameplay demonstration of Squadron 42 they did. It is, I don't even think hot ass is the right term for it. It is ratchet. It is awful. It is disgusting. It is, and this was one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, it's very early. It was pre alpha sort of state. Like textures were missing. Teeth were doing weird things about being shiny. At best it was 15 FPS the gameplay was at, but all of the NPCs were talking to each other, and they were all having reasonable conversations, and all of the stories matched together because they were talking about this one dude who pissed off the lieutenant commander, and the lieutenant commander had her on PD for the entirety of the time, and everyone's like, what the fuck did he do this time? How did he get this bad? It's clearly telling a story about an event that happened, and everyone's talking about it, and it's going back, like that sort of thing. It was great. And I'm like, then I realized this was 2015. It's like, it's 2024 and we still don't have this in Star Citizen. Come on, CIG, please.
Yeah, they can do wild lines while they T-pose, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the T-posing is what's inhibiting the AI just throwing out a wild line as I walk by. Yeah. Like, so I don't know if that's like what they think if that's the mental block or the physical blocker that is existing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Fastcart, who says the meme is strong in this year's ship showdown. Will the Nursa go all the way? What ship will you vote for today?
Oh, man, that was way more tame than I thought it was going to be. You said it's a question from Fastcart, and I was like, oh, here we go.
I don't like the 890. I don't know why the 890 is there. I like the 890, but I don't know why the 890 is there. The 890 can not be on there, please. This is the 600.
Wait, what?
It's the 890 versus the 600 today.
You got to be kidding me. Those two ships are in the.
Yeah.
I'm full honesty, Paul. I have divorced myself from Ship
this
Showdown.
I have
I
mostly.
hate it.
I have mostly as well. So
I can't stand it.
do you want me? Do you want me to make you even madder? That's the
sure.
That's the exploration category.
What? They have categories now?
Yeah, they have categories now. That's those two ships are their Pathfinder category.
Because it's not even a gameplay loop. Why is that a category? Oh, I can't.
Tripping that up. Yeah, it's like you're not even going to put the 400i in that thing, or I don't know, the Carrack, or any other explorer.
I want to like Ship Showdown for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I like these community style engagement events. I really do. But this is the worst.
Yeah.
And it is so poorly executed, and it is such a I don't know. You know what? We don't have time. We don't have time for I'm gonna go grab another beer.
Okay.
Be right back. Please, somebody else answer a question on this.
I will answer very easily. I think the Nurso is going to go all the way, but I also think whoever wins between the Terrapin and the Gladiator will be my pick, because both of those ships are ships I like. I'd like to win. I'd prefer the Gladiator, but if the Terrapin wins, I'm okay with the Terrapin. Just to throw CIG under the bus. And I think the only reason why the Terrapin and Gladiator are there is because people at CIG knew that there's like a hardcore fan base behind both of those ships. And so there's probably some either updates or Mark II versions or variants of them that are going to be coming out in the near future. So it's just why they put them on there.
That's very interesting.
I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just saying I'm putting that in as I mean, that's where it seems.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I didn't. I said tomato.
Which one do you think?
Oh, which one?
Yeah. Or which ship do you think is the meme ship that's going to go all the way?
Honestly, I'm with you on the Gladiator and the Terrapin, because it's almost the same thing with the Argo Cargo again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it. The Gladiator is the unsung bomber that basically in lore started as a joke, basically. And then you have the scout that should be in the scout category. You got kicked out by the 890. Let's face it.
Yeah, it should have that Terrapin should have been going up against the 600. That would have made a little bit more sense, because like at least the 600 has an exploration version, you know. Yeah. All right. Next now we get the leather question from Fastcart. Obligatory leather question, because Paul asked for them. How tough will leather from a Kazi Grazer be, and what part will you wear what body part will you wear Kazi Grazer leather on? Well, obviously you have to wear the Kazi Grazer leather jacket and the Kazi Grazer leather chaps, because those are the most important parts. So
I'm impressed you got that out.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done it.
And enough boots.
Yeah. I have been saying this for a while, and I think Axis and I talked about this a couple of episodes ago, where I've said that the first craftables we're going to have in game are going to be ships weapons and armor. And I think clothing is another good, easy craftable they could do as well. And I mean, they are putting the Kazi Grazer in because it's super common in the universe and it's the space cow. But I could also see them putting it in there because they're like, hey, we want to use it as the basis for harvestables, so you can now harvest the leather off of the thing, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. Definitely back to our earlier conversation. I'm with you, because with a large bovine like that, I think that's basically what it is, right?
Yeah, basically it is. It's an alien, but
you could take the hide, you can eat it, you can, there's multiple things from the animal. And I think that'll be expanded to the Copian too. The Copian hide will probably have some different defensive capabilities than say the
the grazer or
the grazer, or different uses.
Yeah.
Different armors and different things may be made from different animal hides.
I could see we do have some sort of space leather in the game already with some of the weapons, some of the armor. So
yeah,
you're muted, by the way, if you're talking.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's good.
I just noticed I came back and I was like, we're still on leather? Oh man, I went to go greet the pizza dude and
oh no, we're done.
On the solid topic.
We're kind of finishing it, but yeah, I didn't even think about that because
nobody's really finished with leather ever, Paul.
Yeah. I was thinking that like I didn't realize that there is armor that it's made out of sort of a leather material, so I could see like different animals, leather, hide,
some of the best armors.
Yes, the armor for for rest and relaxation.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one. Ghost knows. Ghost knows.
The Aslan. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question is from Steve the Dancer, who asks.
No, I'm just kidding.
Has everyone noticed hacking gameplay is still missing and Squadron 42 is about to be released? What do you think is going on here? Squadron 42 is not about to be released. It's still like at least a year away. And I think the answer is hacking isn't in Squadron 42. I mean, that's the easy answer if it's not out released. And we haven't heard a lot about it for a while, and it's content complete, so I can't imagine it being in Squadron. So yeah, that's the easy answer. I don't know. You have anything to add, Axis, Nightcub?
Guys, I really don't think we're getting hacking like we thought we were getting hacking for a long time.
Yeah, we're not getting hacking this year for sure. So
no.
I think hacking is going to dial down into engineering related gameplay. I hate to tell you all that, but I think like the idea of the Legionnaire, that is not, maybe it might dive a little bit, not just engineering, but man, what's Atira's favorite thing? The electronic countermeasure stuff. He did a whole video on it in Star Citizen. I can't remember what it's called.
Electronic warfare.
You think I should know this? Yeah, electronic warfare. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, electronic warfare. Like I think that's the style of game. Yeah, EW. Thank you. I think that's the style of gameplay you're going to get for hacking. I do not think it's going to be. And I think what you see in the game right now with like the idea of hacking chips and codes, or vice versa, having one versus the other, is the best you're going to get for a little while. Outside of maybe in a year or so, you get electronic warfare. Maybe two. I don't even know why I said a year.
Yeah.
2 years from now, they haven't talked about it. The general rule is if they're ready to talk about it, it's 2 years away. If they're showing you it, it's a year away. I feel like is the general rule. Because remember when we talked about resource management 2 Citizen Cons ago, and just now we're going to get it in the game because last year they showed us like the early stages of that. Like they haven't even given you a design doc yet right now on hacking. So I don't see any reason why it's anything less than 2 years.
And it was clear that hacking was designed to go with the Legionnaire, and the Legionnaire was actually in like white box or gray box at one point last year, and suddenly they went real quiet on it, so it's clear that they went, this was the priority. No, it's no longer. Yeah. So they've taken it and they put it on the shelf, and they're going to look back at it. And it may be because, like you said, engineering became a thing, and they're like, well, wait, so much of this is just engineering gameplay. Let's wait until we get engineering gameplay before we kind of figure out what that's going to look like. So,
yeah, I can't even imagine a world in which hacking gameplay is a thing before you've fleshed out the ship components, charge and drain, power consumption. The resource management network seems kind of crucial as a baseline before you even start talking about hacking gameplay.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought.
Putting the cart before the horse.
I don't understand game development. Just to be clear, that's me being real.
Axis, what do you think about hacking gameplay and Squadron 42? What's going on with that? What do you think?
Well, we know Squadron 42 isn't this year.
Yeah.
Maybe next, late. But hacking, I'm in agreement with you guys. It'll be simplified, tied to engineering. probably more utilitarian instead of off spur like people are thinking.
Mhm.
You know, it won't be just everyday thing.
Like a situational thing.
Situational, like very Skyrim situational, like hacking. Like you may have to have a lockpick system instead of, for hacking locks and stuff.
Mhm.
Hacking locks, I say that. There may be a lockpick kit you have, but
I'm
it's not
freaking
going
cool
to
with
be
that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Like
it.
a little skill-based system like that. Again, you know, the the more dexterous you are with your fingers and or understanding of the puzzles that they throw up at you, totally fine.
Mhm.
Totally fine with that. Like, yeah, the other example would be, I hate to drive back to Helldivers, but some people are really good at putting in the freaking stratagem codes. Like they
I'm
practice that. It's a
I'm awful
skill-based
at them.
thing.
But yeah.
I'm not great at them either. But man, it's really good when you got somebody that's practiced at it and stuff like that, and they can pull their weight. If that's the hacking gameplay, totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Something skill based.
Something that requires a little bit of attention. I've always been a big fan of hacking being deck based, pulling from like a lot of the inspirations that CIG's pulling from for Star Citizen, like 80s science fiction. One of the things that a lot of like early cyberpunk narratives had was hacking
Oh
was
man,
was simplified. So if you were dealing with
yeah,
this type of firewall, you'd have a program you'd run, and because it was tape futurism, they would take like a cassette tape and plug it into the computer, and like run the like little hand computers, run the computer, and it would little loading thing. It's like, all right, we're almost there. Okay, it's full through the first faculty. You have to pull out that tape, pull in another program. And you have to do this. Like that sort of like built in, red, green, blue, and yellow programs that you run, and you swap them out based off of the systems you're approaching. You still get the complexity of something that people feel like they understand it, but with the knowledge of being like, oh, this is a Hurston facility. I know they always use the red, green, blue style of this sort of thing. But yeah.
oh
Go
my
ahead.
goodness. Yeah, I love talking in front of a bunch of nerds. Y'all talking about Shadowrun stuff. I saw
Yeah.
script kitties in the freaking.
Key card.
Oh yeah, Paul knows about Shadowrun.
Yeah, Shadowrun.
Of course he does. Deckers. Hell yeah, I'm down.
Being on a military base, I'm sure Cobb knows where I'm going with this. Key cards are due to security clearance. You only have certain levels of clearance depending on the level of the card you have.
Yeah, you could have something like that. So like hacking requires is less of a thing about like, oh yeah, I need to hack the planet, man, and more of a like, I need to make sure that our IDs are higher clearance than they should be, kind of thing to get us through that. So Shadowrun, the D&D game, or the new school shit. D&D. The new stuff doesn't have anything about Dex. Dex is the tabletop. Fun fact, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that the people who built BattleTech, the tabletop, are the same people who made Shadowrun, the tabletop. The same designers. So
FASA.
FASA. Yeah.
It's like Catalyst Game Labs now. It's
yeah.
Like, anyway, but it used to be FASA.
Yeah. Well, it's
old school nerddom, dude.
Because Catalyst is founded by the people who founded FAFSA or FASA. So like they brought back BattleTech and they brought back Shadowrun, that kind of stuff. So it was
Paul and I just dated ourselves, by the way.
Yeah, we did.
Just aged ourselves in front of everybody.
No, Catalyst bought the rights off of the remnants of FASA. Yeah, I think they did. But if I remember correctly, Catalyst is founded by members of FASA, former members of FASA. Jordan has nothing to do with CGL. I don't know what that means, but okay. One of the
if
main...
y'all don't know what we're talking about, y'all need to go back and invest in some of the nerddom of the late 80s, early 90s and understand.
Just
all right, some really good shit came out back then.
Oh, what is it called?
Y'all are missing out.
There's a book that people need to read. That's like kind of the one. It's like Neuromancer, I think. Yeah, Neuromancer.
Oh yeah.
Go read Neuromancer. If you want. If you're a fan of things like, Philip K. Dick novels or, Stranger in a Strange Land or Starship Troopers from Heinlein, Go read Neuromancer. It's like the generation after that generation, so they're all heavily influenced by it. But it is, without Neuromancer, you wouldn't have any cyberpunk. It is like the catalyst, the origin of all of the cyberpunk narratives. Kind of like how Starship Troopers is the catalyst for almost all military science fiction. Without Starship Troopers and without Neuromancer, Star Citizen wouldn't exist. Those are huge components of Star Citizen's like identity. So even like its themes and stuff. So
Starship Troopers is still on the Navy's reading list, man.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
No joke.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. Ending it with a nice book recommendation. Go read Neuromancer and give me your book report by the end of the week. You can't tell, I'm coming back into teaching today, so this week.
Teaching mode right there.
Yeah. And thank you to Night Cobb for coming in, and thank you for Access. Access came in the last minute because unfortunately we had a drop out. So make sure you're checking Access on Kick, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch under Access 0096 or A0096
on Kick, Access 0096 on YouTube and Twitch. It's lowercase on Twitch, and it's the same as YouTube, but with an X on Rumble. So yeah.
Gin Tonic, I was talking about Neuromancer. There's a movie Neuromancer. I didn't know that. And then Night Cobb. Make sure you're checking out Armchair Admirals and Generals.
Oh man, you remembered the name so good.
Yeah, because I would call it Armchair Generals and Admirals, and then you make fun of it.
I know you got it right this time. I'm really impressed.
So yeah, there we go. Go check that out on Tree 0311. Too many zeros in this one. Yeah, 0311. Go check that out to watch about the kind of the military's perspective on Star Citizen. And if you've enjoyed this and you've gotten to the end, wow, just wow. Type wow in the comments down below if you made it to the end, and I'll give you a favorite. So you get a nice little thank you for doing that. Make sure you also hit that subscribe button, like the video, and hit the bell icon to be notified this release. And if you're on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button. And if you want to join us live on Saturdays at I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, to join us live for the discussion and the question and answer session. We'd love you to come on and ask your own questions. And like I always say, thank you so much for watching. And if I don't see you again, hope to see you someday in the black.